1973. 6 days later, we all watched who stopped him. Now let's.
I guess you do look old enough to be your father.
Found in all walks.
Hey!
Now, I know most of you were.
Meinst du das? Ja?
I'm sorry!
Dobrej nocy.
Where's Nana?
Not back. With her friends.
You'll see.
The screen goes dark, then drums, deep, rhythmic, ancient. Sand swirls across sun-baked stone as the camera pulls back to reveal something massive, a pyramid under construction in ancient Egypt, 3600 BC. Thousands of people strain against ropes, moving blocks that should be impossible to lift. But here's the thing, they're not really lifting them. The stones float, hieroglyphs cover every surface, and at the center of this impossible construction site stands a figure in ceremonial robes. His skin has a grayish-blue tint, marked with strange patterns that look almost circuit-like. An-Saba-Nur, the first mutant, what the ancient world calls a god. 4 figures stand guard around him, his horsemen. Each radiates power in their own way. One controls the desert winds, another makes the very ground shift beneath her feet, a third moves with superhuman speed, and the fourth seems to bend light itself. They're not just bodyguards, they're believers, true followers willing to die for their master. Inside the pyramid's inner chamber, golden light pours through carefully designed openings. A ritual is underway. An-Saba-Nur lies on an elaborate stone altar, surrounded by symbols and offerings. Across from him, another altar holds a younger man, a new host body with the power of accelerated healing. The transfer of consciousness, the secret to Apocalypse's immortality, is about to begin. Chanting fills the chamber. The horsemen maintain their positions outside, ensuring no one interrupts this sacred moment. Golden energy starts to pulse between the two bodies, connecting them in streams of light that look almost liquid. An-Saba-Nur's eyes glow white-hot as his essence begins the journey from his ancient form into the new vessel. Everything's going according to plan, until it isn't. Shadows move at the pyramid's base, not worshippers, conspirators. A group of Egyptian guards and priests who've decided their god has ruled long enough. They've watched An-Saba-Nur transfer his consciousness before, seen him claim body after body, century after century. Tonight, they're ending his reign. The horsemen sense the danger first. Outside the chamber, they turn to face the approaching threat. But the conspirators came prepared. These aren't ordinary soldiers. They're mutants too, ones who've hidden their abilities while serving in Apocalypse's empire. Betrayal from within. The battle erupts fast and brutal. One of the horsemen controlling wind tries to blast the attackers back, but there are too many. Another creates barriers of solid earth, buying precious seconds. Their loyalty never wavers, even as blades find their marks. They're not fighting to win anymore. They're fighting to buy time for the transfer to complete. Metal crashes against stone. Powers collide in bursts of energy that shake the pyramid's foundation. The conspirators have one goal: bring this structure down on top of Ensaba while he's vulnerable. Consciousness split between two bodies. Blood spills on ancient stone. The Horsemen fall one by one, their powers fading as life drains from their mortal forms. But they succeeded in their final mission. They bought enough time. Inside the chamber, the transfer completes in a flash of brilliant light. Ensaba gasps in his new body, the healing factor already integrating with his vast array of absorbed powers. He sits up, sensing immediately what's happening outside. His horsemen are dead or dying. The pyramid trembles as the conspirators use their combined abilities to destabilize the structure from within. Massive stone blocks begin to shift. The carefully balanced architecture that took years to construct starts collapsing in seconds. Apocalypse rises from the altar, but even with his godlike power, he can't stop what's already in motion. The ceiling fractures, cracks spiderweb across walls covered in hieroglyphs. He reaches out with telekinetic force, trying to hold the structure together, but hundreds of tons of stone are already falling. The pyramid comes down. Darkness swallows everything as Ensaba is buried beneath layer upon layer of rubble. His new healing factor keeps him alive, regenerating damage as quickly as it occurs, but he's trapped, entombed. The conspiracy succeeded. Not in killing him, he can't die, but in removing him from the world. 5,000 years pass. The title card hits, X-Men Apocalypse, PSE 1983. Cairo, Egypt. Sandstorms rage across the desert, but in the city, life goes on. Dust-covered buildings stretch toward a hazy sky. The world has changed in ways the ancient mutant couldn't possibly imagine. Cars honk through crowded streets. Television antennas sprout from rooftops. Coca-Cola signs advertise in Arabic. Deep beneath the modern city, in chambers that haven't seen light in millennia, something stirs. A group of people winds through underground passages, their torches casting dancing shadows on walls. They're not archaeologists. This is a cult. Followers of ancient texts that speak of a sleeping god waiting to return. They spent years searching, and finally, they found it. The burial chamber of Ensaba. Their leader, a woman with fanatical eyes, reads from a scroll as the others work to clear rubble. She's convinced that awakening the first one will usher in a new age for mutant kind. The followers chant in ancient Egyptian, words they barely understand but recite with absolute faith. They don't realize what they're actually doing. Sunlight. That's the key. The text mentioned it, and the cult followed the instructions precisely. They've rigged a system of mirrors and openings, carefully angled to channel light from the surface down into this buried chamber. It's almost ceremonial, the way they've set it up, like they're giving an offering to their sleeping god. The woman nods. Her followers remove the last obstruction. Concentrated sunlight pours into the chamber for the first time in 50 centuries. The beam strikes the rubble covering Ensaba resting place. For a moment, nothing happens. Cultists hold their breath, waiting, hoping they haven't dedicated their lives to a myth. Then the stones begin to move on their own. Dust cascades off shifting blocks as an invisible force pushes outward from within. The rubble that imprisoned Apocalypse for 5,000 years lifts into the air and hangs there, defying gravity. Through the gap, a hand emerges, gray-blue skin, intricate patterns glowing faintly with inner power. Ensaba rises from his tomb, his eyes open, and they burn with ancient intelligence. He looks at the cultists gathered before him, these modern humans who freed him. They fall to their knees immediately, prostrating themselves before their returned god. The woman who led them here speaks in broken ancient Egyptian, welcoming him back, pledging eternal loyalty. Apocalypse says nothing. He steps past them like they're furniture and moves toward the passage leading up to the surface. The cultists scramble to follow, still on their knees, crawling to keep pace. He doesn't acknowledge them. After 5,000 years of darkness, he has only one thought: to see what became of his world. The journey up takes minutes, but each step reveals more of the modern age. Electric lights powered by wires, concrete instead of stone, metal reinforcement bars jutting from broken walls. All of it feels wrong to him. Cheap, temporary, weak. Apocalypse emerges into Cairo's streets at sunset. The noise hits him first. Car engines, radio broadcasts, jet planes overhead leaving contrails across the sky. The smell of gasoline and exhaust fills air that should carry only sand and spice. Buildings crowd together in chaotic patterns, no grand design, no testament to power or permanence. He walks slowly down the street, taking it all in. People hurry past, too busy with their lives to notice the strange figure moving through their midst. A television in a shop window shows news footage, politicians arguing, wars fought with guns and bombs instead of power and will, humans and mutants segregated and fearful of each other. The cultists trail behind him, still murmuring prayers and pledges. One of them, braver than the rest, approaches and tries to explain what happened during his imprisonment. 5,000 years of history compressed into stammered sentences. Empires rose and fell, gods were forgotten, the strong didn't inherit the earth, the weak multiplied and built a world of mediocrity. Apocalypse stops walking. His expression shifts from confusion to disgust. This world, this weak, chaotic, directionless mess, this is what humanity built without his guidance? Mutants hiding their gifts, treated as lesser beings by powerless humans who should be bowing before them? The strong serving the weak instead of ruling them? This must end, he says, his voice carrying harmonics that shouldn't be possible from a human throat. The cultists shiver at his words, though they don't fully understand. They freed a god expecting salvation. What they actually released is something far more terrifying, a being who sees the entire modern world as a failed experiment that needs to be wiped clean and started over. Apocalypse turns to face them directly for the first time. These followers, these believers who spent their lives searching for him, who gave everything to bring him back. He looks at each of them in turn, and what they see in his eyes makes their zealotry waver. This isn't the merciful deity they imagined. This is something colder, more absolute. I am awakened, he says, and I am not pleased. He walks away from them, leaving the cultists kneeling in the dust. They got what they wanted. Their god returned. They just didn't realize that gods from a different age don't fit comfortably into the modern world. Ansaba Nur doesn't want to guide this civilization. He wants to tear it down and build something worthy from its ashes. The ancient mutant moves through Cairo's evening crowds, invisible in plain sight. His mind is already working, processing 5 millennia of change, calculating what needs to be done. Somewhere in this world of 7 billion weak humans, there are mutants with potential, powerful ones who could become what his ancient horsemen were, believers willing to help him purge the earth. He just needs to find them. Above the city, the sun sets behind modern skyscrapers that dwarf the ancient pyramids. In the dying light, Ansaba Nur looks like just another silhouette against the Egyptian skyline. But anyone watching closely would notice something off about the way he stands, the way he moves, the way reality seems to bend slightly around him. The first mutant has returned, and the world has no idea what's coming. Westchester, New York. A mansion sits on sprawling grounds looking exactly like what it is. Old money, quiet power, the kind of estate that's been in families for generations. Except this family is different. Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. That's what the sign says, anyway. The neighbors think it's a private academy for exceptional students. They're half right. Students walk across manicured lawns carrying books, laughing, looking like teenagers anywhere in America. But watch closely. That girl over there just made a textbook float to her hand without touching it. The boy by the fountain changed his eye color mid-conversation. A kid on the basketball court just jumped 3 feet higher than physics should allow. Xavier's dream made real. A safe place where young mutants can learn to control their abilities without fear, without hiding. Where being different doesn't mean being dangerous or broken. Professor Xavier himself sits in his office reviewing files on new student applications. He's younger than you might expect, early 40s, with sharp eyes that seem to see straight through people, which, given his telepathic abilities, isn't far from the truth. He radiates optimism despite everything happening in the world beyond these gates. The prejudice, the fear, the constant tension between humans and mutants. Hank McCoy pokes his head through the doorway. Beast! Blue fur covers his entire body, but he's dressed like any Professor Cardigan. Slacks, reading glasses perched on his distinctly leonine nose. Charles, we've got a situation. New arrival. His brother brought him, and it's, well, you should see for yourself. The medical bay looks more like a lab than an infirmary. Scanning equipment lines the walls, modified by Hank to detect and measure mutant abilities. A teenage boy sits on the examination table, eyes covered by a thick makeshift bandage that looks like it's been bleeding red light through the fabric. Scott Summers. 16 years old, terrified, and trying desperately not to show it. His older brother Alex stands nearby, still in his leather jacket from the motorcycle ride over. Havoc, one of Xavier's former students, now working with the team. He's got his hand on Scott's shoulder, steady and reassuring, but you can see the worry in his face. When did it start? Xavier asks gently, wheeling closer. 3 days ago, Alex answers. Scott stays silent. He woke up and couldn't open his eyes without destroying everything in front of him. We've been keeping him blindfolded since. I can't control it. Scott's voice cracks slightly. First time he's spoken since arriving. Every time I try to look at something, everything burns. I can feel the pressure building behind my eyes constantly, like holding back a dam. Xavier nods, understanding in a way that goes beyond words. He's felt Scott's panic telepathically since the boy entered the building, the fear of his own body betraying him, of becoming a weapon he can't put down. Your mutation manifested late. Sometimes the most powerful abilities take longer to emerge. The optic blasts you're experiencing are made of concussive force, not heat. You're not burning things, you're hitting them with focused kinetic energy. Doesn't matter what it's called. Scott's hands clench into fists. I still can't look at my own face without blowing apart the mirror. Hank steps forward with something he's been working on, a visor prototype made of ruby quartz. Sleek, almost futuristic looking, designed to fit snugly across the upper face. This should help. The quartz is specifically engineered to block your particular energy frequency. You'll be able to open your eyes safely, and there's a manual control here. He taps a small button on the side that allows you to release the blast when needed. Scott takes the visor with shaking hands. Alex helps him remove the blood-soaked bandage, and for a moment, everyone in the room tenses. Hank's calculations better be right. The visor slides into place. Click. Locked. Scott opens his eyes behind the red lenses. Nothing explodes. No destructive beam tears through the wall. He looks around the room, actually looks, and you can see the relief wash over him like a physical wave. I can see, he whispers. Then louder, I can see. Alex grins and pulls his brother into a rough hug. Xavier smiles, the kind that reaches his eyes. Another mutant saved from a life of isolation and fear. Another student who might learn to see his power as a gift instead of a curse. Welcome to the school, Scott, Xavier says. You're going to do just fine here. Across campus, in the East Wing dormitories, someone else is having a much worse night. Jean Grey jolts awake, gasping. Sweat soaks through her pajamas. Her roommate Jubilee groans and pulls a pillow over her head. Again? Sorry, Jean manages, swinging her legs out of bed. Her hands are trembling. Same dream, except it's not really a dream. Dreams fade when you wake up. These visions cling to her consciousness like oil, dark and heavy and wrong. She sees fire, not normal fire, but cosmic flames that consume everything. Planets burning, stars dying, and at the center of the inferno, something ancient and powerful wearing her face. Phoenix. The word echoes in her mind even though she doesn't know where it comes from or what it means. Just that it fills her with equal parts terror and exhilaration. There's power inside her, more than she can comprehend, and every day it feels like it's growing. Pushing against the mental barriers Xavier helped her build when she first arrived. Jean makes her way to the bathroom, splashes cold water on her face. Green eyes stare back from the mirror. Normal, human, nothing special. But she knows better. She's felt what she can do when she loses control. Objects flying across rooms, thoughts from 100 minds crashing into hers all at once, and beneath it all, something vast and hungry waiting to be unleashed. A soft knock at the door. Xavier's voice, gentle and knowing. May I come in, Jean? She doesn't answer verbally, just lowers her mental shields enough to let him sense her agreement. He enters, giving Jubilee's sleeping form a slight telepathic nudge to ensure she stays asleep. Privacy for this conversation. You saw it again, he says. Not a question. It's getting stronger. The visions, the feeling that I'm not. That there's something else inside me. Jean wraps her arms around herself. Professor, what if I can't control it? What if I'm dangerous? Xavier considers his words carefully. He's known since Jean arrived that she's extraordinarily powerful, potentially the most powerful mutant he's ever encountered. But power without control is just destruction waiting to happen. Fear of your abilities is natural, but running from them, suppressing them completely, that's more dangerous than learning to work with them. So what do? You train, you practice, you trust yourself. He pauses, and you trust that you're not alone in this. Whatever you're experiencing, whatever power is emerging, we'll face it together. Jean nods, not entirely convinced but willing to try. The phoenix fire in her dreams doesn't feel like something you train or practice with. It feels like something that consumes everything in its path. But she doesn't say that out loud. Halfway across the world, in East Berlin, a very different kind of mutant is being forced to fight for his survival. The cage is ringed by screaming spectators, humans and mutants alike, all placing bets on who'll walk out alive. Underground fighting rings like this exist in every major city, places where mutants with physical abilities can make money the only way society allows them. Blood sport for profit! Kurt Wagner crouches in the corner, rosary beads clutched in his three-fingered hand. His appearance is striking blue skin covered in darker blue patterns, pointed tail, yellow eyes that glow slightly in the dim light, pointed ears. Demonic, some would say. But anyone who actually talked to Kurt would find a gentle soul who'd rather be anywhere but here. His opponent enters the cage to massive cheers, a brute with rock-like skin and fists that could pulverize concrete. The crowd loves him. He's undefeated in 17 matches, each one ending with his competitor carried out on a stretcher. "I don't want to fight," Kurt says in German-accented English. The rock mutant just laughs and charges. Bam! Kurt disappears in a puff of sulfur-smelling smoke and reappears behind his attacker. Teleportation. It's not a combat ability, not really, it's an escape power. But in a locked cage with nowhere to go, all he can do is dodge. The brute swings, Kurt teleports, again and again, each bamf accompanied by that distinctive smell and a small cloud of brimstone. He's not trying to win, just trying to survive until the time limit expires. "Fight back, demon!" someone screams from the crowd. Kurt's tail lashes in agitation, but he doesn't attack. His Catholic faith won't let him. Violence begets violence, and he's seen enough of it already. Another teleport, another dodge. The brute is getting frustrated, swinging wildly now, using up energy. Then the rock mutant tries something new. Instead of chasing Kurt, he grabs one of the cage's support beams and rips it free. The entire structure groans, starting to collapse. If Kurt keeps teleporting around, innocent spectators could die. Checkmate. Kurt stops moving, closes his eyes, starts praying silently. If this is how it ends, at least he'll meet his God with a clear conscience. The brute raises the metal beam like a club. A whip cracks through the air, wrapping around the weapon and yanking it from his grasp. Everyone in the warehouse freezes. A woman in dark clothes and a hood steps into the emergency lighting, moves like a trained fighter, confident and dangerous. Mystique. She doesn't reveal her face, but her voice carries authority. "The fight's over. Let the kid go." "This is a private event," the cage owner sputters. "You can't just—" Raven drops the hood. Her blue skin isn't demonic like Kurt's. It's scaled, reptilian, distinctly inhuman but somehow elegant. She lets her natural form show, yellow eyes cold and measuring. "I said the fight's over!" Several mutants in the crowd recognize her. Mystique, legend among their kind. Freedom fighter or terrorist depending on who you ask, but definitely not someone you argue with. The cage door opens. Kurt scrambles out, still clutching his rosary. Raven grabs his arm and pulls him toward the exit. Behind them, the crowd erupts in angry shouts. Refunds demanded, bets contested, general chaos. They make it to the street before Kurt finds his voice. "Thank you, I am Kurt Wagner. You saved my life. Don't thank me yet." Raven keeps walking, pulling him along. "Those people are going to come looking for their money. We need to put distance between us and that warehouse." "Where are we going?" She stops, looks at him directly for the first time. Really looks. Sees a kid with incredible power being exploited, forced to fight, treated like a monster because of how he looks. It's a story she knows too well. Her own story, in different variations, repeated across 1,000 mutant lives. "America," she finally says. "I know someone who can help you. A safe place." Kurt's tail wraps unconsciously around his own leg, a nervous gesture. "I don't have papers. No passport, no money." Raven almost smiles. "Kid, I can look like anyone. Papers aren't going to be a problem." She starts walking again. "Come on, there's a flight to New York in 4 hours and we're going to be on it. Poland, a factory on the outskirts of a small industrial town. The work is honest, manual, exactly the kind of thing that keeps you too tired to think about the past." Eric Lensher wipes sweat from his forehead and adjusts the next steel beam into position for welding. Around him, other workers do the same, building prefab structures that'll be shipped across Eastern Europe. Simple work, anonymous work, exactly what he needs. His co-workers know him as Henrik, a quiet Polish man who keeps to himself but does quality work. They don't know about the concentration camps, the revenge, the years spent fighting alongside and against Charles Xavier. They don't know he can control metal with his mind, that he's one of the most powerful mutants alive. Eric prefers it that way. "Henrik," his supervisor calls. "Need you on the steel press." He nods and heads over. The life he's built here is small, contained, deliberately ordinary. After everything, after Cuba, after the assassination, after Kennedy, he chose to disappear. No more grand causes. No more war between humans and mutants. Just work, home, and the family he's building. His wife Magda waits at the factory gates when his shift ends, their daughter Nina bouncing excitedly beside her. The girl is 7, all energy and innocence and joy. She doesn't know her father's history either. Doesn't need to. Papa! Mina runs to him, and Eric catches her mid-leap, swinging her up onto his shoulders. How was school? He asks. She chatters about her day friends, lessons, a bird she saw at recess, normal childhood things. Eric drinks it in like water in a desert. This is what he wanted. What he fought for in his own twisted way. A world where his daughter can grow up safe. They walk home as a family, through streets where neighbors wave and call greetings. Eric Lenscher, the terrorist, is dead. Henrik, the factory worker, is just another face in a small Polish town. For now, that's enough. Cairo's slums sprawl outward from the tourist districts like a different world. Ash-lined alleys, crumbling buildings held together more by habit than structural integrity. This is where people fall through the cracks. The poor, the desperate, the ones nobody notices. Perfect hunting ground for someone looking for the desperate and powerful. Aurora Monroe moves through the marketplace with practiced ease, her white hair distinctive even in the crowded chaos. 13 years old and already a master thief. She's faster than the vendors can track, fingers slipping into pockets and snatching from displays before anyone realizes what happened. A watch here, some bread there, enough to survive another day. But Aurora has a secret that makes ordinary pickpocketing almost too easy. Storm clouds gather overhead despite the forecast calling for clear skies. Not a coincidence. She doesn't fully understand what she can do, just that weather responds to her moods, bends to her unconscious will. When she's scared, wind picks up. When she's angry, thunder rumbles. Right now, she's focused, and a light drizzle has started, giving her cover as people duck under awnings and stop paying attention to their belongings. Her hand darts out toward a tourist camera bag. Impressive, a voice says behind her. Deep, resonant, ancient. Aurora spins around. Ansava Noor stands there, somehow unnoticed by the crowd flowing around him like water around a stone. His appearance should draw stares, the unusual skin tone, the intricate patterns, the sheer presence, but no one seems to see him except her. I wasn't? She starts to deny it. You control the weather. He cuts through her lie with absolute certainty. You are a goddess walking among insects, yet you scurry and steal like them. Why? The rain intensifies without her meaning it to. Fear response. I don't know what you're talking about. Apocalypse raises one hand. The rain stops mid-fall, droplets hanging suspended in the air like a photograph. Aurora's breath catches. She's never seen anyone else do things like this, never met another person with abilities. You are a mutant, child, Homo superior, the next stage of human evolution. He releases whatever hold he had, and the rain resumes. You survive in filth because you were told you are nothing. But I see your potential. I can make you more. More what? More than you ever imagined. Aurora should run. Every instinct screams danger. But she's been hungry for so long, not just for food, but for purpose, for belonging, for someone to tell her she's not broken or cursed. What do you want from me? I want to give you power. Apocalypse extends his hand. Join me. Become what you were meant to be. She hesitates only a moment before taking it. Brightness explodes behind Aurora's eyes. Energy courses through her body like electricity, rewriting something fundamental at the cellular level. Her mutation doesn't just activate. It amplifies, expands, becomes something far beyond what she could do before. When she opens her eyes, the sky answers her call with immediate, devastating precision. Lightning arcs exactly where she wants it. Wind shapes itself into focused blades or gentle currents at her thought. She feels every weather pattern across the continent, all of it hers to command. White hair lifts around her head in an invisible current. Opals, her eyes glow solid white. No pupils, no iris, just pure power. The street clothes she wore hang in tatters, replaced by something else. Black armor forms across her body, intricate and organic, looking grown rather than made. Storm, not the scared street kid anymore. One of the 4 horsemen. She looks at Apocalypse with new understanding, new devotion. He didn't just enhance her abilities. He showed her what she truly is. A goddess, just like he said. The weak humans scattering from the sudden storm are insects beneath her notice. Yes, she breathes. I see it now. Apocalypse smiles, cold and satisfied. 1. Now we find the others. The underground fighting circuit has other venues beyond Berlin, bigger ones, deadlier ones. Somewhere in Europe, the exact location changes nightly to avoid police. Mutants fight for money in matches that don't stop until someone can't get up. Healing factors get tested to their limits. Telepaths are banned. Only physical mutations allowed, because the humans running these events want blood and spectacle. Tonight's featured match, Angel versus a mutant with bone spikes growing from his entire body. Warren Worthington III was beautiful once. Rich family, classic good looks, and wings, actual feathered wings that made him look like something from a Renaissance painting. Flight and fortune, everything handed to him. Then his family found out what he was. The wings are still there, but barely. Tattered feathers, broken primaries, scars from where he tried to cut them off himself before giving up. Can't fly anymore, not really. Just enough to stay airborne during fights, gliding more than soaring. Desperation brought him here, to these cages where his name doesn't matter and nobody asks about his past. Blood already streaks his face from the Spike mutant's last hit. Warren's breathing hard, wings beating uselessly. He's losing. Again. The crowd boos. They bet on the Angel's King mutant expecting something spectacular. All they're getting is a slow, brutal beating. Had enough, pretty boy, his opponent taunts. Warren's response is swinging a wild punch that misses by a foot. Pathetic. He knows it. Everyone knows it. The Spike mutant moves in for the finish, and Warren can't even muster the energy to dodge. Then the lights go out. Emergency generators kick in after 3 seconds, bathing the warehouse in red backup lighting. But something's different. Someone new stands in the cage, walked through locked doors like they didn't exist, and nobody noticed until now. Apocalypse. "This is beneath you," he says, looking at Warren with something almost like pity. Wings made for the heavens, dragged through mud and blood for human entertainment. Warren spits blood. "Get out of the cage, old man. This isn't your fight. No, this is your rebirth." Before Warren can process that, Apocalypse touches his shoulder. The same energy that transformed Storm erupts through Warren's body. But this time it's different, not just enhancing what exists, but rebuilding what was broken. The tattered feathers burn away. For a horrifying moment, Warren's wings are just skeletal frames, bone and sinew. Then metal begins to grow, flowing like liquid mercury but solidifying into razor-sharp edges. Each feather becomes a gleaming blade, capable of launching like projectiles. The wings expand, larger than before, powerful enough to carry him through aerial maneuvers he could only dream about previously. His eyes shift to solid black, no white, no color, just darkness. Archangel. Warren flexes his new wings, and metal feathers slice through the air with a sound like swords being drawn. The Spike mutant backs away, suddenly realizing he's no longer the most dangerous thing in the cage. "I understand now," Warren says, voice colder than before. "Thank you, Lord." Apocalypse nods. 2. We continue. Tokyo's neon-soaked streets hide darkness in plain sight. Corporate espionage, Yakuza wars, mutant trafficking, all of it churning beneath the surface of one of the world's most advanced cities. Betsy Braddock doesn't hide what she is. Purple hair, striking features, and a psychic blade she can manifest from pure psionic energy. Psylocke. Assassin for hire, loyal to whoever pays best, utterly lethal. She's completing a job when Apocalypse finds her. 3 targets, all dead before their bodyguards realized anything was wrong. Her psychic blade leaves no trace, cuts through thoughts and flesh with equal ease, killing without a drop of blood. Cleanup is almost finished when she senses him, a psychic presence so vast it makes her abilities feel like a candle next to the sun. Betsy spins, psychic blade already forming in her hand. "I don't know what you are, but you picked the wrong telepath to sneak up on. I am in Saban Nur. He doesn't move from where he stands, and I am not here to fight you. I am here to recruit you. Not interested." The blade pulses brighter. "My contract book is full. You sell yourself to weak humans who fear the very power they hire you to use." Apocalypse tilts his head. "You are a weapon allowing herself to be wielded. I offer you the chance to become the hand that swings the blade." Betsy hesitates. She's worked for corporations, governments, crime syndicates, all of them treating her like a tool to be locked away until needed. Useful but disposable. What's the job? Reshaping the world, removing the weak, ensuring only the strong survive. His eyes bore into hers. "I need warriors, not servants. Horsemen who ride beside me, not slaves who crawl behind. A psychic blade for sale finds a buyer promising war on a global scale." Betsy's smile is sharp and cold. "When do we start?" Apocalypse touches her forehead. Energy flows, but this time it's different. Betsy's already at her peak. The enhancement focuses on refinement, sharpening what exists rather than creating something new. Her psychic blade becomes more focused, able to cut through mental defenses like tissue paper. Her telepathic reach extends from meters to kilometers. Purple energy swirls around her as new armor forms, dark and elegant and deadly. Her eyes glow violet for a moment before settling back to their normal color. Apocalypse recognizes that she's already everything she needs to be. Psylocke. The third horseman. One more, Apocalypse says. Then we begin. Poland, the factory, a normal afternoon. Eric positions a steel girder for welding, muscles straining with the weight. Cool, move it effortlessly with his powers. But that's not an option. That's the whole point of this life. No powers, no attention, just honest work. His coworker Dmitri struggles with his own beam nearby, the weight clearly too much. The girder starts to slip, falling toward another worker below who's bent over adjusting equipment. Time slows. Eric sees it happening, sees the half-ton of steel dropping, sees his coworker about to die, and nobody else is close enough to help. The choice makes itself. Eric's hand shoots out. The girder stops mid-fall, hanging in the air. Every piece of metal in the factory trembles slightly, resonating with the magnetic field he's generating. Workers freeze, staring at the impossible sight. Henrik? Dmitri whispers. Are you? The girder lowers gently to the ground. Eric releases his power, but the damage is done. Everyone saw. Someone's already pulling out a phone, probably calling the police. Mutants aren't exactly welcome in small Polish towns, even ones saving lives. Eric doesn't run, just stands there, decades of careful anonymity shattered in 3 seconds because he couldn't watch someone die. By evening, word has spread. The factory worker is a mutant. Henrik isn't even his real name. Someone recognizes him from old news footage. That's Magneto, the terrorist from America. Police arrive at his small house with guns drawn and fear in their eyes. Magda tries to explain, tries to calm the situation, but they're not listening. A crowd forms behind the officer's neighbors Eric shared meals with, people who waved to Nina at school, all of them looking at his family like monsters now. Please, Magda says, we're not hurting anyone. We just want to live in peace. Come out with your hands visible, the lead officer orders, ignoring her. We know what you are. Nina clutches her mother's hand, terrified. She doesn't understand why everyone's so angry. Papa saved someone. That's good, isn't it? A bird lands on her shoulder, then another. Within seconds, dozens of birds swirl around the little girl, responding to her distress. Animals have always liked Nina, but this is different. This is control. She's a mutant too. The crowd gasps. One of the police, young, nervous, scared, raises his bow. Just trying to aim, just trying to look ready, but his hand shakes and the string slips. The arrow flies. Eric reacts instantly, reaching out with his power to stop the metal arrowhead. But it's not metal, just wood and stone, specifically chosen for mutant targets. He can't affect it. The arrow hits Magda in the chest. She drops immediately, Nina still holding her hand. No! Eric screams. Nina tries to go to her mother, but another panicked officer fires. This arrow takes the little girl in the throat. She collapses next to Magda, birds scattering in chaos, small hand still reaching for her mother. Everything stops. Eric walks slowly to where his wife and daughter lie dying in the dirt, kneels between them, takes their hands in his. Magda's gone already, the light fading from her eyes. Nina lasts a few seconds longer, blood bubbling as she tries to say, Papa, but can't. Then silence. The police back away, realizing what they've done. The crowd disperses, suddenly finding other places to be. Everyone running from the consequences of their fear. Eric stands. Every piece of metal for 100 meters begins to vibrate. The police weapons tear themselves from their hands and crush into scrap. Cars crumple. Buildings groan as rebar twists inside concrete. The rage Eric suppressed for years, all the anger he buried trying to be normal, erupts like a volcano. He raises his hands. The entire police camp rips itself apart. Vehicles launch into the air and smash down. Metal structures collapse. The destruction spreads outward from Eric like a shockwave, tearing through everything human-made. The factory where he worked, the homes of neighbors who turned on him. Everything touched by human hands becomes a weapon of their own destruction. Minutes later, nothing remains but rubble and bodies. Eric stands alone in the devastation, tears cutting tracks through the dust on his face. His family is dead. His attempt at peace is dead. Everything good in his life taken by the very humans he tried to live among. They will all pay, he whispers to the ashes. Yes, Apocalypse materializes from nowhere, Storm, Angel, and Psylocke flanking him like a dark honor guard. He looks at the destruction Eric caused with approval. This is the power he's been searching for. You are Magneto, Apocalypse says. Master of magnetism, one of the most powerful mutants on this planet, and they took everything from you. Eric turns empty eyes to the ancient mutant. What do you want? I want to give you purpose, revenge, a world where the weak cannot harm the strong because the weak will no longer exist. Apocalypse extends his hand. Join me. Become my fourth and greatest horseman. Together, we will cleanse this world of those who murdered your family. Eric looks at the offered hand, looks at his dead wife and daughter, looks at the ruins of the life he tried to build. Revenge, that's all he has left now. He takes Apocalypse's hand. Power floods through him, not changing his abilities but removing every restraint, every limitation he placed on himself. The magnetic fields of the earth become extensions of his will. He can sense every piece of metal across continents, manipulate the planet's very core if he chooses. Dark armor forms across his body, maroon and black, looking almost like a darker version of the costume he wore as Magneto. His eyes hardened to steel, all softness burned away by grief and rage. War. The fourth horseman. The four stand together now. Storm with her white eyes in command of weather. Archangel with his metal wings gleaming in dying light. Psylocke radiating violet psychic energy. And Magneto surrounded by an aura of magnetic force. Apocalypse surveys his horsemen with satisfaction. The strongest gather to the strongest. Evolution in action. Now, he says, we begin the culling. Xavier School operates on routines, morning classes, afternoon training sessions, evening study halls where teenagers who can move objects with their minds still have to finish algebra homework. The mundane mixed with the extraordinary, creating something almost normal. Almost. Raven arrives without warning, materializing at the front gates in her natural blue form. She doesn't visit often, too many memories, too much history with Charles that never quite resolved itself. But today she's got Kurt in tow, the blue teleporter looking overwhelmed by the mansion's grandeur. Hank answers the door. Does a double take at seeing two blue-skinned mutants on the porch? Raven. It's been a while. Is Charles here? No small talk. Straight to business. In his office. Is something wrong? She doesn't answer, just strides past him into the familiar halls. Kurt follows hesitantly, his tail curled around his own leg nervous habit. Students stare as they pass. Mystique is legend among young mutants, the freedom fighter who doesn't apologize for what she is. Xavier senses her arrival before she reaches his office, opens the door with telekinesis as she approaches. Raven, what a pleasant surprise. Don't! She cuts him off. This isn't a social call. His expression shifts, reading the tension in her posture. Come in, both of you. Kurt hangs back near the door while Raven paces. She's agitated in a way Charles hasn't seen in years. Something genuinely scared her, and Raven doesn't scare easily. Eric's resurfaced, she says without preamble. Charles goes very still. Where? Poland. Was Poland. Now, she shakes her head. There's footage all over the news, an entire town destroyed, metal twisted into sculptures of death. Witnesses say a man did it with his bare hands. Her yellow eyes meet his. It's him, Charles. Magneto's back, and he's worse than before. The name hits like a physical blow. Charles hasn't heard from Eric in years. Thought maybe, hoped maybe, his old friend had found peace somewhere. Built a different life. Are you certain? Satellite images show magnetic distortion patterns matching his signature. Half of Poland's power grid failed when he lost control. Raven stops pacing. Whatever happened there broke him. The Eric we knew, the one who could still be reasoned with. I don't think he exists anymore. Charles wheels to the window, looking out at students playing on the lawn. Jean practicing telekinesis with Hank. Scott adjusting to his new visor. All these young people who believe in his dream of coexistence. Eric would call them naive. Maybe he's right. I need to find him, Charles says quietly. Talk to him before this escalates further. Charles, I know it's dangerous. I know he won't want to listen, but I have to try. He turns back to her. He's my friend, Raven. I can't just give up on him. She recognizes that stubborn set to his jaw. No point arguing. Fine, but I'm staying until you do. Someone needs to keep an eye on things while you're playing therapist to a mass murderer. Elsewhere in the building, someone else is worried about Eric Lenscher for very different reasons. Peter Maximoff Quicksilver sits in the student lounge, bouncing his leg at speeds that blur the movement. He showed up at the mansion a week ago claiming he wanted to learn control. True enough, but not the whole truth. The whole truth is that Magneto is his father. He's known for years. His mom told him when he was 12, showed him old photos of a young Eric from before the anger hardened him into something cold and dangerous. Peter's been building up the courage to tell him, to have that conversation, but every time he gets close to actually doing it, he chickens out. What do you even say? Hey, remember that woman in 1955? Surprise, you got a son who runs really fast? Now Eric's apparently destroyed a town and disappeared, and Peter's window might be closing. He drums his fingers on the table, normal speed for once, trying to decide what to do. Tell Xavier? The professor could locate Eric with Cerebro, and Peter could tag along. Face-to-face conversation, no more avoiding it. Or keep quiet? Maybe Eric doesn't want a son. Maybe knowing would make things worse. Peter's still debating when alarms start blaring. The lower levels of Xavier's mansion hold secrets, training rooms capable of withstanding optic blasts, danger room simulations that can recreate any combat scenario, and deepest of all, accessible only through biometric scans and psychic verification, Cerebro. Spherical chamber lined with circuitry and technology that looks decades ahead of anything commercially available. Because it is. Hank designed most of it himself, refining concepts that shouldn't be possible. At the room's center, a chair surrounded by a helmet covered in neural interfaces, Cerebro amplifies telepathic abilities to global range. With it, Charles can locate any mutant on Earth, sense their thoughts, even communicate across continents. It's the most powerful tool the X-Men possess, also the most dangerous. Charles wheels into position, Hank fussing with last-minute calibrations. Are you sure about this? If Eric doesn't want to be found, forcing a psychic connection could trigger a violent response. I'm aware of the risks. Charles positions himself under the helmet, but I need to reach him before he does something irreversible. More irreversible than destroying a town? Valid point. Charles doesn't have a good answer, so he just gestures for Hank to activate the system. The helmet lowers. Neural connections engage with tiny clicks. Lights ripple outward from the chair in expanding circles, visual representation of psychic reach spreading across the globe. Charles closes his eyes and opens his mind. Thousands of thoughts bloom into awareness. Millions. Every mutant on the planet suddenly accessible to his consciousness. He's done this hundreds of times, learned to filter the overwhelming flood of information, focus on specific signatures. He searches for Eric, the familiar mental pattern, sharp, disciplined, touched with old pain and older anger. Should be easy to locate. Eric's psychic presence is distinctive. But there's something else. Another presence in the psychic landscape. Vast and ancient and utterly alien. It notices Charles the moment he notices it. Too late to disconnect. Apocalypse crashes into Xavier's mind like a tidal wave. Not a subtle infiltration. A brutal invasion that seizes control of the connection and amplifies it beyond anything Charles designed Cerebro to handle. Every mutant Charles was sensing, Apocalypse is now sensing too. And through Xavier's amplified abilities, Apocalypse can reach them all. No. Charles tries to sever the link, but he's not in control anymore. Apocalypse is using him like a megaphone, broadcasting to every mutant consciousness on Earth simultaneously. Jean gasps mid-telekinesis exercise, the textbook she was floating clattering to the ground. Scott stumbles. Kurt appears in a panicked bamf of smoke. Every student with even minor telepathic sensitivity feels it, an overwhelming presence forcing its way into their minds. Hear me, children of the atom. The voice speaks in thoughts, not words. Ancient and absolute. Eclipse's psychic message riding Charles's power to every corner of the globe. I am the first. I am En Sabah Nur. I have walked among you as a god, and I have returned to find a world of weakness and chaos. Raven runs for the Cerebro chamber, knowing something's gone catastrophically wrong. Hank's already there, frantically trying to shut down the system, but it's not responding. The Cerebro's operating beyond its designed parameters, drawing power it shouldn't be able to access. Inside the helmet, Charles's nose bleeds. The strain of channeling this much psychic energy is tearing his mind apart. He can feel Apocalypse using him, sorting through mutant signatures like files in a database, cataloging power levels, identifying threats. Your time of hiding ends today. Those strong enough to survive what comes will inherit the Earth. The weak will be swept away like chaff. Images flood every mutant mind on the planet. cities crumbling, monuments falling, fire and destruction on a scale incomprehensible, not a threat, a promise. Bow before your god or be crushed beneath his heel. Then something else happens. Apocalypse doesn't just broadcast, he shows himself. Forces every connected mind to see him standing in Cairo, his 4 horsemen arrayed behind him. Storm with lightning crackling around her white eyes, Archangel's metal wings spread wide, Psylocke wreathed in purple psychic fire, and Magneto, magnetic fields distorting the air itself. Students scream, some pass out. The younger ones cry, overwhelmed by visions of apocalyptic destruction. Jean sees it differently. When Apocalypse's presence touches her mind, something responds. The phoenix fire in her dream surges toward the surface, recognizing another cosmic-level entity. For a brief moment, Apocalypse feels it too, pauses in his broadcast, sensing something in this young mutant that gives even him caution. Then he's back to his message. All nations of Earth, hear me now. Your weapons are nothing. Your armies are nothing. To prove this, I remove your greatest threat. Through Xavier's hijacked connection, Apocalypse reaches beyond mutant minds to the infrastructure of world governments. Every nuclear facility, every launch station, every carefully guarded arsenal designed to end civilization. He activates them all. NORAD's alarms scream. Russian command centers erupt in chaos. In China, India, Pakistan, France, the UK, every nuclear power simultaneously registers unauthorized launch sequences. Missiles that should require multiple verified commands to activate are engaging on their own. World leaders watch in horror as their doomsday weapons betray them. Rockets ignite, silos open, submarines surface and prepare to launch. Within 90 seconds, enough nuclear ordnance to sterilize the planet several times over is airborne. And then they all change trajectory. Missiles arch not toward enemy cities but up, escaping Earth's gravity well entirely. Every nuclear weapon humanity created, redirected into space through the combined power of Apocalypse and his psychic control over Xavier's amplified abilities. Quote, the weapons reach orbit, continue into the void, and detonate harmlessly in the vacuum, brief flowers of light visible from the ground before fading to nothing. In 2 minutes, Apocalypse has rendered humanity's ultimate deterrent completely useless. The psychic broadcast resumes. Your weapons are gone. Your protection is gone. What remains is simple. Evolution. The strong will rule. The weak will perish. This is the natural order, and I am its avatar. Hank finally manages to override Cerebro's power supply, cutting the main feeds. The helmet releases Charles with a hiss of depressurization. The professor collapses forward, caught by Raven before he can fall from the chair. Blood streams from his nose and ears. His eyes are unfocused, mind still reeling from the violation. He used me, Charles whispers. I led him right to every mutant on Earth. We need to get you to the medical bay. Raven tries to support his weight, but Charles is dead weight in her arms. He's coming. Xavier grabs her arm with surprising strength. Not right now, but soon. He's going to come for me, Raven. My powers combined with his would be unstoppable. Then we run, back up the kids and disappear. He'll find us anywhere. You felt his power. Charles's expression hardens despite the pain. We need to fight. Gather everyone capable of combat. This is what the X-Men were created for. Footsteps echo in the corridor, students running toward them, scared and confused. Scott appears first, visor reflecting emergency lights. Professor, what happened? Everyone felt something, and then the news is saying all the nukes just... An explosion rocks the mansion. Not from inside, from above. The ceiling cracks as something impacts the roof with tremendous force. Students scream. Structural supports groan. Everyone out! Raven shouts. Now! Hank helps Charles while Raven herds students toward exits. Another explosion, closer this time. Whatever's attacking, it's coming through the building floor by floor, systematically destroying the school. Scott fires an optic blast at the ceiling, creating an alternative exit route. This way! Move! Jubilee helps younger students through. Kurt teleports back and forth, grabbing anyone too slow or too scared to run. Jean uses telekinesis to shield a group from falling debris. Peter Maximoff blurs into action, moving at speeds that make everything else look frozen. He's evacuating the entire East Wing in the time it takes a normal person to take 3 steps. Grabs a kid from under a collapsing beam, snatches another from a room about to be crushed, makes 12 trips in 2 seconds. Outside, the students gather on the lawn, watching their home destroy itself. Except it's not destroying itself. Someone's attacking with surgical precision, targeting load-bearing walls and support columns. Alex Summers. Havok runs from the training building in his combat suit. "What's happening? We're under attack," Raven says. She shifted forms, trying to blend with the students, hiding her distinctive appearance in case whoever's hitting them is looking for specific targets. Then they see who's responsible. Military helicopters circle overhead, not the usual Black Ops teams that occasionally cause trouble. These are official, insignia visible, Colonel Stryker's forces, the government division tasked with handling mutant threats. Soldiers rappel down, heavily armed and wearing armor designed to resist various mutant abilities. They're not trying to capture anyone yet, just destroying the building methodically, room by room. They're clearing the structure, Hank realizes, forcing everyone outside where they can. He doesn't finish the sentence because that's when the real assault begins. Soldiers open fire with specialized ammunition, rubber bullets laced with tranquilizers, sonic rounds designed to disorient, net guns that deploy on impact. Students panic. Some try to fight back with their powers. Scott's optic blast takes out a helicopter's tail rotor, sending it spinning to an emergency landing. Jean shields a group with telekinetic barriers. Kurt teleports soldiers' weapons away from them, but there are too many. These troops train specifically for mutant combat, and most of the students are teenagers who've never been in a real fight. Within minutes, most of the school is in restraints. Stryker himself appears, stepping from a command vehicle with the confidence of someone who planned this perfectly. Gray hair, cold eyes, absolute certainty that he's on the right side of history. His soldiers drag captured students toward transport vehicles. Hank struggles against 3 soldiers holding him down. Raven's been tranquilized, her natural blue form visible as unconsciousness takes her. Even Scott's down, visor damaged, eyes forcibly closed behind a specialized blindfold. Stryker walks directly to where soldiers have Charles in custody. The professor's still weak from the Cerebro incident, unable to mount any psychic defense. "Professor Xavier," Stryker says, "you're coming with me!" Your school harbored dangerous mutants. Your technology poses a national security threat. You should have stayed out of sight. "This is illegal," Charles manages. "We haven't committed any crimes. Tell that to the footage of your facility causing a global nuclear incident." Stryker gestures, and soldiers lift Charles from his wheelchair, carrying him toward a specialized transport vehicle designed to block psychic abilities. Jean watches from where she's hiding in the tree line, pulled there by Kurt before the real assault started. Peter's beside her, vibrating with barely contained rage. Kurt grips his rosary, praying silently. "We have to help them," Peter says. "Against an army, we'd be captured too." Jean's voice shakes. She wants to fight, wants to tear those vehicles apart and free everyone, but she's terrified of what might happen if she loses control. The Phoenix fire in her dreams always ends with everything burning. The mansion collapses behind them, final structural supports giving way in a cascade of destruction. Years of work, decades of Xavier's dream made real, all of it rubble in 15 minutes. Stryker's forces load students into vehicles and begin pulling out. The whole operation took less than 20 minutes from first assault to complete extraction. Jean, Peter, and Kurt are left standing in the woods watching their friends disappear into military custody. "What do we do now?" Kurt whispers. Jean closes her eyes, reaching out telepathically, trying to sense where Charles is. She catches a brief flash location, facility, bars, and concrete. Then nothing, the specialized vehicle cutting off her connection. But she got enough. A name, a place. Weapon X, she says. They're taking them to a Weapon X facility. Peter's already vibrating with anticipation. "So we go get them." "Against trained soldiers in a fortified location?" Kurt sounds doubtful. "How?" Jean opens her eyes. The Phoenix fire flickers gold for just a moment before she pushes it down. "We're about to find out." The Weapon X facility doesn't advertise itself. No signs, no markings, just a nondescript government building in upstate New York that officially processes agricultural data. Underground, 30 feet below the boring offices, is where the real work happens. Mutant experimentation, weapon development, projects so classified even most government officials don't know they exist. That's where Stryker took everyone. Jean, Peter, and Kurt approached through the woods after nightfall. They've been watching the facility for hours, counting guard rotations, identifying security protocols. Not exactly a well-thought-out plan, but desperation doesn't leave room for perfect strategy. 17 guards visible, Peter reports, having already sped around the entire perimeter twice. Probably more inside, security cameras every 20 feet, motion sensors in the parking lot, and there's some kind of psychic dampening field. Can you feel it? Jean nods. Her telepathy hits a wall about 50 meters from the building, like trying to push through concrete. They're specifically designed to hold mutants. We won't have powers to rely on once we're inside that field. Then how do we get in? Kurt asks. Peter grins. Fast and loud, or slow and sneaky. I vote fast. We need quiet. Jean points to a ventilation shaft on the building's north side. Kurt, can you teleport us inside that? If I can see where I'm going, yes. But teleporting blind into a building I don't know, we could materialize inside a wall, so we make you not blind. Peter's already moving, blurring up to the facility's exterior, finding a window, peering inside for 3 seconds, then back before guards even register movement. Second floor, looks like a hallway. I saw it. If I describe it to you. It's risky, Kurt protests. Everything's risky. Jean's already walking toward the building. We're breaking into a government black site to rescue our friends from illegal detention. Risky is our baseline now. Fair point. They reach the perimeter. The psychic dampening field hits like walking into cold water. Jean's telepathy cuts off instantly. That constant background awareness of other minds just gone. She's never realized how much she relied on it until it disappeared. Kurt closes his eyes, visualizing the hallway Peter described. Clean white walls, fluorescent lighting. Door marked B-level access at the far end. Got it. Everyone hold on, he says. B-am sulfur smoke and displaced air. They materialize in the hallway exactly where Peter described. So far, so good. No alarms. No guards immediately visible. This way. Jean doesn't know how she knows, but something pulls her deeper into the facility. Not telepathy, that's still blocked. Something else, a connection she doesn't understand. They move quickly through corridors that all look identical. White walls, steel doors with small windows, everything sterile and cold and designed to make prisoners feel isolated. Peter scouts ahead at normal speed, can't risk the sound of supersonic movement in enclosed spaces. Voices ahead. Guards. Kurt teleports the group into an empty room as footsteps pass. 2 soldiers in tactical gear, carrying weapons designed to fire tranquilizer rounds. They're discussing weekend plans, completely unaware 3 mutants just disappeared 10 feet from them. Where are they keeping everyone? Peter whispers once the guards pass. Jean points down. Lower levels. I can't sense them telepathically, but I know they're below us. That strange pull intensifies. Not just toward the other students, toward something else, someone else. They find stairs leading down. B-level becomes C-level becomes D-level, each floor more secure than the last. Reinforced doors. Retinal scanners. Guard stations every 100 feet. This is impossible, Kurt mutters. We'll never reach them without being caught. Then alarms start blaring. Not because of them. Someone else triggered security. Somewhere deeper in the facility, something went very wrong very fast. Guards scramble past without even glancing at the 3 teenagers pressed against the wall. Emergency protocols activated. Containment breach. What's happening? Peter asks. Jean's eyes widen. Someone's loose. Someone powerful and very, very angry. 3 levels below, in a specialized containment chamber designed to hold the facility's most dangerous experiment, Subject X has broken free. Logan doesn't remember his name. Doesn't remember much of anything beyond pain and rage and the sensation of molten metal being forcibly bonded to his skeleton. They made him a weapon. Covered his bones in adamantium, tried to program him with trigger words and conditioned responses. What they created instead is a berserker wearing a man's skin. The adamantium claws extending from his knuckles punch through the containment cell door like it's paper. Soldiers fire tranquilizer rounds that bounce off his healing factor wounds, closing faster than they can inflict them. He moves with animal efficiency, slashing through anyone between him and freedom. Blood sprays. Men scream. Logan doesn't hear them as people, just obstacles. Threats to eliminate. Stryker's voice crackles over intercoms. Secure all exits. Do not let the weapon escape. Too late. Logan's already 3 hallways away, following instinct toward the surface. His senses are heightened to superhuman levels. Smell, hearing, spatial awareness. He knows exactly where every soldier is before they round corners. Knows which routes lead up and which lead deeper into the maze. Claws slash. Bodies drop. The facility's pristine white walls repaint themselves red. Jean feels it like a pressure wave. We need to move, now. They run toward the holding cells, using the chaos as cover. Guards are too busy responding to the Wolverine crisis to notice 3 kids sneaking through corridors. Finally, they reach the detention wing. Specialized cells line both sides of a long hallway, each holding a captured student. Scott behind reinforced glass, blindfolded, unable to use his optic blasts. Jubilee in a cell with rubber walls that absorb her explosive bursts. Hank in restraints strong enough to hold his superhuman strength. Peter vibrates with fury. How do we open them? Control room. Jean points to a fortified booth at the hall's end. But it'll be locked and… Kurt's already gone. Bamf into the control room. Bamf back out with a security card. Found this on the desk. The card unlocks cell doors one by one. Students stumble out, exhausted and scared but unharmed. Scott rips off his blindfold the moment he's free, though he keeps his eyes firmly shut without the visor. Where's the professor? Different wing, Jean says. They separated him. Extra security because of his telepathy. Then we find him. Scott's already moving, blind but confident. Nobody gets left behind. The freed students follow, a ragtag group of teenagers with powers they barely know how to use, heading deeper into a military facility in lockdown. Terrible plan. Only plan they have. They round a corner and freeze. Logan stands at the intersection, covered in blood that's mostly not his own. Claws extended. Eyes wild and unfocused. He doesn't see students. Just movement. Potential threats. Things his programming says to eliminate. Don't move. Jean whispers. He's not in control. He'll kill us without thinking. Logan's nostrils flare, scenting the air. His head tilts, focusing on Jean specifically. Something about her cuts through the berserker rage, a connection neither of them understands yet, won't understand for years. His claws retract slightly. Logan, Jean says softly, though she doesn't know where the name came from. We're not your enemies. We're prisoners too. We're just trying to escape. He stares at her, really looks at her. Some fragment of the man beneath the weapon recognizes something, innocence maybe, or genuine compassion in a place that's only shown him torture. Logan's claws retract completely. He grunts something that might be acknowledgement and pushes past the group, continuing his path of destruction toward the exit. Well, that could have gone worse, Peter breathes. Explosions rock the facility above them. Logan's rampage reached the armory. Fire suppression systems activate, sprinklers drenching everyone. Somewhere, Stryker is screaming orders nobody can follow because his perfect containment protocols are collapsing. They find Xavier in an isolation chamber, hooked up to machines designed to monitor and suppress his telepathic abilities. Tubes and wires, restraints. The sight makes Scott's jaw clench. Get him out of there. Hank's the one who disconnects everything properly, ensuring they don't accidentally harm Charles while freeing him. The professor's conscious but weak, pushed beyond his limits by Apocalypse's hijacking, and then immediately imprisoned. Students, he says faintly, you shouldn't have come. Too dangerous. Yeah, well, we're not great at following orders, Peter says, helping support Charles's weight. Raven's cell is nearby. She's still unconscious from the tranquilizers, but Kurt teleports in and brings her out. Alex Havoc helps carry her, his plasma blasts ready if guards appear. They need to move, but Xavier can't wheel himself and there's no chair. Peter solves it by just carrying him at normal speed while Hank supports from the other side. How do we get out? Jubilee asks. The building's on lockdown. There's a hangar, Charles says through gritted teeth. Lower level. They brought us in through there. Military transport jet designed for mutant prisoners. Can you fly a jet? Scott asks. Hank adjusts his glasses. I designed one once. How different could it be? The hangar is chaos. Logan's rampage passed through here minutes ago, leaving destroyed vehicles and terrified personnel. A sleek black jet sits on the launch pad, designed for stealth and speed. The X-Men's stolen ride home. Guards try to stop them as they rush for the jet. Scott opens his eyes behind the visor someone found for him in the armory. Red beams punch through weapons and equipment, careful not to hit people. Jubilee throws explosive charges that detonate like fireworks. Kurt teleports opponents' guns away before they can fire. Peter moves through the space in a blur, disarming everyone in 3 seconds. His perspective shifts into that weird, slow-motion zone where he experiences time differently. Bullets crawl through the air like floating metal. Guards move with exaggerated slowness. He plucks weapons from hands, ties bootlaces together, generally causes chaos without seriously hurting anyone. From his perspective, it takes 5 minutes. Everyone else sees a silver blur and suddenly everyone's disarmed. They pile into the jet. Hank takes the pilot seat, scanning controls that are thankfully intuitive enough. Everyone strap in. I've never actually flown before. That's not comforting, Scott mutters, but he's already helping buckle younger students into seats. The hangar doors ahead are closed reinforced steel designed to prevent exactly this kind of escape. Hold on. Hank engages engines that roar to life with surprising power. The jet lurches forward, accelerating rapidly toward the closed doors. Scott leans forward. Hank? The doors? I see them. They're not opening. I'm aware. 50 meters, 40, 30. Jean closes her eyes, reaches deep for the power she's been suppressing. The Phoenix fire responds immediately, eager, hungry. Telekinetic force erupts from her in a wave that tears the hangar doors off their hinges and flings them aside like tissue paper. The jet screams through the opening and into the night sky. Behind them, the Weapon X facility burns. Logan's somewhere in the wilderness, running on instinct, free but not saved. Stryker stands in the wreckage of his operation, already planning how to spin this disaster. And in the distance, in a vault marked Essex Corp, automated systems activate. Cameras captured everything. The mutants, their powers, particularly detailed footage of Logan and his adamantium skeleton. Data compiles itself and transmits to a remote location where a man in shadows reviews the information with great interest. But that's a threat for another day. The jet levels out at cruising altitude. Hank exhales shakily. Everyone alive? Confirmations come from throughout the cabin. They're battered, exhausted, traumatized, but alive and free. Xavier sits in the co-pilot's seat, strength returning slowly. We need to regroup, find somewhere safe while we determine our next move. There is no next move, Raven says. She's awake now, sitting up despite her grogginess. You felt what Apocalypse showed everyone. He's got Eric, he's got an army, and he's planning to wipe out most of humanity. Then we stop him, Scott says with teenager certainty. We're students, Jubilee protests. Half of us just learned to control our powers last month. What are we supposed to do against a god? Jean speaks quietly, but everyone hears. We fight, because nobody else can. Silence in the cabin. They all know she's right. The world's nuclear weapons are gone, governments are in disarray, and there's a group of impossibly powerful mutants in Cairo planning to reshape civilization. All that stands between Apocalypse and his apocalypse is a battered jet full of teenagers and their teachers. Professor, Scott asks, what do we do? Charles looks at the young faces around him, students who should be worried about homework and social drama. Instead, they're being asked to save the world. Xavier's dream was always that mutants and humans could coexist peacefully, that the next generation wouldn't have to fight the wars his generation started. He was wrong about the timeline, but maybe not wrong about the people. We go to Cairo, he says. We stop Apocalypse, and we show the world that mutants are heroes, not threats. He pauses. But I won't order anyone to fight. This is voluntary. Anyone who wants to stay behind when we land, I'll understand. Nobody moves toward the exit. Kurt fingers his rosary. I didn't ask to be a fighter, but I won't abandon people who need help. I'm in, Peter says. That's some personal business with Magneto anyway. One by one, the students commit. Not because they think they'll win, because it's the right thing to do. The jet cuts through the night sky, heading east toward Cairo, toward Apocalypse, toward a battle that will determine the fate of the world. In the back of the cabin, Jean stares out the window at stars wheeling past. The Phoenix fire churns in her chest, no longer just in dreams, but present and waiting. She's terrified of it. But she's more terrified of what happens if she doesn't use it. We're coming, she whispers to the darkness, to Apocalypse, to whatever destiny waits in Egypt. The jet flies on. 12 hours in a stolen military jet gives you time to think. Too much time, really. The students try to sleep, but adrenaline and fear make rest impossible. Scott sits with his visor tilted up, eyes closed, mentally replaying everything that went wrong. Jubilee chews her nails down to nothing. Kurt prays silently, rosary beads moving through his 3-fingered hands in an endless rhythm. Peter can't sit still, literally. He vibrates in his seat, leg bouncing at speeds that blur the movement. Every few minutes he gets up and speed walks the length of the cabin just to burn off nervous energy. You're going to wear a hole in the floor, Raven observes from where she's studying maps of Cairo. Can't help it. It's how I process stress. Peter pauses mid-pace. We're really doing this, huh? Flying halfway around the world to fight a god. Would you rather go back? He considers it for maybe half a second. Nah, never been good at the smart choice. Hank pilots with intense concentration, occasionally muttering to himself about aerodynamics and fuel efficiency. The jet's military grade, designed for long-range operations, but they're pushing it to the limits. At current speed, they'll reach Cairo just after dawn. Xavier sits apart from the students, eyes closed but not sleeping, reaching out telepathically despite the headache that still pounds behind his temples. The psychic dampening from the Weapon X facility is gone, but the trauma of Apocalypse's invasion lingers. Every time he touches another mind, he feels the echo of that ancient presence. Jean approaches quietly. Professor, can I ask you something? Of course. She settles into the seat across from him, choosing words carefully. When Apocalypse took over Cerebro, you felt what he is, what he can do. Do we actually have a chance against that? Charles could lie, could give her comfortable platitudes about hope and determination. But Jean deserves honesty. I don't know, he admits. His power is beyond anything I've encountered. Thousands of years of accumulated abilities transferred from host to host. Telekinesis, matter manipulation, molecular control, and that's just what I glimpsed before he forced me out of my own mind. So we're probably going to die. Probably. He opens his eyes, meets hers directly. But Jean, I've learned that probability isn't destiny. The future isn't written. We have something Apocalypse doesn't understand. We fight for each other, not just for power. That has value he can't measure. She wants to believe him, wants to think that friendship and teamwork will somehow overcome a godlike entity with 4 impossibly powerful mutants serving him. But the phoenix fire in her chest knows better, knows that this battle will require something more. What if I have to use it? She asks quietly. The thing inside me, the power that scares me. Xavier leans forward. Then you use it. But Jean, power doesn't define us. How we choose to use it does. Whatever's inside you, it's part of who you are. Don't fear it. Master it. Easy to say, harder to do when the power in question feels like it wants to consume everything. Cairo appears on the horizon as the sun rises, except it doesn't look like Cairo anymore. The city's skyline has transformed into something alien and terrible. Modern buildings stand twisted, reshaped by forces that don't respect architectural physics. Glass and steel bent into spirals and impossible angles. Some structures float, suspended in magnetic fields. Others have collapsed entirely, rubble forming patterns too geometric to be natural. At the city's center, a massive pyramid is growing. Not ancient sandstone, but something else. Matter being transmuted and reshaped, pulled from the surrounding buildings and assembled into a monument to Apocalypse's power. It rises higher as they watch, adding another level every few minutes. Oh my God, Jubilee whispers, face pressed to the window. Hank's instruments go haywire as they approach. Magnetic interference, atmospheric distortions, energy readings that make no sense. Whatever they're doing down there, it's affecting the fundamental forces of physics in a 3-mile radius. Can you land? Raven asks. Land? Maybe. Land safely? That's optimistic. The jet descends through turbulence that shouldn't exist in clear skies. Wind shears appear from nowhere, buffeting the aircraft. Hank compensates with reflexes enhanced by his mutation, but it's like trying to land during a hurricane that keeps changing direction. Buildings rush up to meet them. Hank spots a relatively clear plaza and aims for it, cutting engines at the last possible second. The jet hits hard, skids across ancient stones, and crashes into a collapsed wall with a grinding screech of tearing metal. Silence. Then groaning and cursing as everyone unbuckles. Everyone alive? Hank calls out. Affirmatives come back, shaky but present. They stumble from the wrecked jet into Cairo's transformed streets. Dust hangs in the air like fog. Fires burn in the distance. The city's not destroyed, it's being rewritten. Where is everyone? Scott asks. The streets should be packed with people fleeing or emergency responders or military. Instead, emptiness. They evacuated, Xavier says. Or tried to. This much destruction, this much visible mutant activity, governments will have pulled everyone back and established a perimeter. So we're on our own. We've always been on our own. The pyramid dominates the landscape, impossible to miss. It's not Egyptian architecture, it's something older, predating civilization itself. Symbols cover its surface, glowing with internal light. The structure pulses like a heartbeat, energy radiating outward in waves. That's where he is, Jean says. Not a guess, a certainty. She can feel Apocalypse's presence like pressure behind her eyes. He's got the professor. Wait, Xavier's standing right here. Then she realizes, the other professor. Her professor. Charles is here with them, but in her psychic sense there's another Xavier presence at the pyramid's heart. Captured, being used. He's transferring his consciousness, Charles understands immediately. Using my body as the new host. If he succeeds, he gets your telepathy, Raven finishes. Combined with his other powers and Cerebro's amplification potential, he could control every mind on Earth. We need to stop him before the transfer completes. Scott adjusts his visor. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe an hour. Charles closes his eyes, trying to sense his other self. The connection is fuzzy, blocked by distance and Apocalypse's interference. He's already begun. I can feel myself, him being overwhelmed. Thunder cracks overhead despite the cloudless sky. Storms doing, lightning arcs between buildings in artistic patterns, beautiful and deadly, one of the 4 horsemen maintaining a perimeter. They know we're here, Kurt observes. Good. Peter cracks his knuckles. I've got some things to say to Magneto. They move toward the pyramid, picking their way through rubble and twisted metal. The scale of destruction becomes clearer up close. Cars crushed like soda cans, pavement torn up and reshaped into barriers. Everything touched by magnetic manipulation bears Eric's signature elegant violence, precise devastation. A figure drops from above, metal wings spread wide. Archangel lands in their path, cutting off approach to the pyramid. Warren's transformation is complete now. No trace of the scared fighter from the cage remains, only a weapon crafted by an ancient god. Turn back, he says, voice flat and emotionless. Lord Apocalypse requires no interruption. Warren, listen to me. Hank steps forward. This isn't you. You're being controlled, manipulated. That thing in the pyramid doesn't care about you. He's using you. He saved me, gave me purpose, made me strong. Archangel's wings flex, metal feathers razor sharp and gleaming. More than anyone else ever did. We can help you. I don't need help. I need you to leave or die. Your choice. The wings snap forward, launching a volley of metal feathers like throwing knives. Everyone scatters. The projectiles embed in stone and metal with solid thunks, each one capable of punching through armor. Scott fires back immediately, optic blast catching Archangel mid-flight and slamming him into a building wall. The impact would kill a normal person. Warren shakes it off and launches skyward, circling for another attack run. We don't have time for this, Raven shouts. Every second we waste fighting him, Apocalypse gets closer to completing the transfer. She's right, but Archangel isn't giving them a choice. He dives again, wings spread like guillotine blades. This time Peter intercepts at super speed, running up a tilted lamppost and punching Warren mid-flight. The hit connects, but metal wings slice across Peter's arm, drawing blood. Both combatants crash to opposite sides of the plaza. Kurt teleports to Peter. You're hurt! I'm fine! Fast healing, remember? The cut's already closing, though blood still stains his sleeve. But this guy's a problem. We can't get past while he's aerial bombing us. Then we ground him. Jean's eyes start glowing. Not the white-hot phoenix fire, not yet. Just her natural telekinetic power manifesting visibly. She reaches out with invisible force and grabs Archangel mid-flight, slamming him down into the pavement hard enough to crack stone. Warren struggles against the telekinetic grip, but Jean's power holds firm. Go, get to the pyramid. I'll handle him. Jean, you can't fight him alone. I said G. The force in her voice makes the decision for them. Scott leads the others toward the pyramid while Jean maintains her hold on the struggling horseman. It takes everything she has to keep him pinned. He's stronger than she expected, and those wings keep slicing at the telekinetic bonds. You're making a mistake, Warren snarls. Yeah, I make a lot of those. Jean's nose starts bleeding from the strain. But letting Apocalypse win isn't one of them. Inside the pyramid, past barriers of transmuted stone and through corridors that seem to shift and change, Xavier hangs suspended in bands of energy. The Charles Xavier from the jet is out there somewhere fighting to reach this place. The Charles Xavier here is being slowly consumed. Apocalypse stands before him, arms raised, chanting in a language that predates written history. The transfer ritual requires precision, concentration, an unbreakable connection between host and recipient. Xavier fights with everything he has, throws up mental barriers, attacks Apocalypse's consciousness directly, tries to disrupt the connection. But he's exhausted from the Cerebro hijacking, weakened from imprisonment, and facing an opponent with 5,000 years of practice. Your resistance is admirable, Apocalypse says without breaking the chant. But futile. Soon your body will be mine, your power will be mine, and this world will kneel. You're wrong. Xavier's voice strains with effort. You think strength is everything, but you'll lose because you don't understand what makes us strong. Our connections to each other, our refusal to give up on. Spare me the philosophy. Apocalypse intensifies the ritual. Energy flows between them, increases, becoming visible streams of light. I have heard such speeches from 1,000 defeated enemies. Hope is not a strategy. Power is the only truth. Xavier's hair begins turning white, follicles dying as cellular damage from the transfer accelerates. His skin pales. The process is literally killing him while simultaneously preparing his body to host an alien consciousness. Above them, the pyramid's apex opens to the sky, positioned perfectly to channel solar radiation, the same way Apocalypse's ancient followers arranged the mirrors in his tomb. Energy from the sun pours down, feeding the ritual. It's almost complete, Apocalypse breathes, satisfaction clear in his voice. Soon, the pyramid shakes, not from natural causes, from outside interference, magnetic manipulation on a massive scale, affecting the very structure of the building. Eric's doing, but not intentionally. Something's distracting him. Apocalypse's concentration wavers for just a moment. The ritual stutters. Xavier seizes the opportunity, pours every bit of remaining strength into a psychic attack aimed at breaking Apocalypse's focus. It's not enough to free himself, but it's enough to delay, to buy his students precious seconds. Outside, the real battle is beginning. Eric floats above Cairo, arms spread wide like a conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. The Earth's magnetic field responds to his will, and through it, he commands every piece of metal for hundreds of miles. Buildings continue their transformation. Steel girders tear themselves free and reshape into impossible geometries. Power lines whip through the air like serpents. Cars lift from abandoned streets and compress into perfect spheres. This is Eric's grief made manifest, his rage given form. Everyone who told him mutants should hide, should apologize for existing, should live in fear, he's answering them all at once. He doesn't notice the jet crash, doesn't care about the X-Men approaching. His focus is total, channeling power on a scale he's never attempted before, until a familiar voice cuts through his concentration. "Dad!" Peter stands on a tilted rooftop, using his speed to maintain balance on the impossible angle. He's shouting at the top of his lungs, everything he's wanted to say for years finally erupting. "Eric Lyncher, I'm talking to you!" Eric's concentration breaks. The magnetic manipulation falters. Floating debris drops several feet before he catches it again, but his attention is divided now. Who dares? He turns, sees Peter. Just another human in his eyes. Insignificant. Leave this place or be swept away with the rest. You don't recognize me. That's fine. Why would you? Peter's vibrating with more than just his powers now. Emotional energy seeking release. You don't know about the woman you were with in 1955. Don't know she had a kid 9 months later. Don't know that kid grew up wondering why his dad abandoned him. The words hit harder than any optic blast. Eric descends slightly, magnetic field still active, but his focus completely on Peter now. What are you saying? I'm saying you're my father! Peter screams it, voice cracking. I'm your son, and you're up here destroying the world instead of. He doesn't finish. Can't finish. Because what's the ending to that sentence? Instead of being there, instead of caring, instead of being someone worth looking up to, Eric stares at this silver-haired teenager claiming impossible things, stares and sees something familiar in the facial structure. The eyes. And the powers, super speed, a mutation that could absolutely be genetic, inherited from someone who manipulates magnetic fields and electrons. Magda never told me, Eric says quietly. After I left, she never said, maybe she thought you wouldn't care. Peter's anger bleeds into something sadder. Maybe she was right. The magnetic field wavers. Debris starts falling for real now, as Eric's concentration shatters completely. Across Cairo, his careful destruction becomes chaotic as his control slips. Storm notices, Psylocke notices, and most importantly, Apocalypse notices. The pyramid shakes again as Eric's power falters. The ritual disrupts a second time, energy flowing backwards for a moment before Apocalypse forces it back on track. But twice is enough. Xavier tears free of the energy bonds, collapsing to the pyramid floor, gasping and weak but free. The transfer is incomplete. He's still himself. Apocalypse roars with fury that shakes the pyramid to its foundation. The final battle is about to begin. Apocalypse's rage manifests physically. The pyramid trembles. Stones that took him hours to transmute and shape start crumbling. Energy radiates from his body in visible waves, distorting the air like heat shimmer. You dare interrupt the sacred ritual? His voice carries harmonics that shouldn't exist, multiple tones overlapping. You dare defy a god? Xavier drags himself away from the platform, every movement agony. The incomplete transfer left him damaged, cellular degradation, neural pathways fried, immune system compromised. He's alive but barely functional. You're not a god, he manages through gritted teeth. You're just old and angry and terrified that the world moved on without you. Wrong thing to say. Apocalypse gestures, and Xavier flies backward into the pyramid wall hard enough to crack stone. The telekinetic blow would kill a normal person. Charles survives only because Apocalypse wants him alive. Can't complete the transfer into a corpse. The ritual will resume once I've dealt with your students. Apocalypse turns toward the pyramid's opening. Below, he can see the X-Men scattered across Cairo's transformed landscape. Such small beings, such fragile hope. Storm, Psylocke, destroy them. The two horsewomen respond immediately to their master's command. Storm descends from the clouds like a Valkyrie, white eyes blazing, lightning dancing between her fingers. She shed the scared street thief identity completely. This version of Aurora Monroe is pure elemental fury. Leave this place, she calls down to the X-Men. Lord Apocalypse offers you one chance to flee. Aurora, please. Hank steps forward, hands raised peacefully. You don't have to do this. He's controlling you, amplifying your anger and fear. The real you wouldn't. A lightning bolt answers him, striking inches from his feet. The message is clear. The real me was weak, Storm says. Starving, powerless. He showed me strength, showed me what I truly am. She raises both arms and the sky responds. Clouds gather impossibly fast, black and roiling. I will not return to weakness. The storm breaks. Rain hammers down in sheets so thick visibility drops to meters. Wind howls strong enough to tear loose debris into projectile weapons. Lightning arcs continuously, forcing the X-Men to scatter for whatever cover still exists. Scott fires an optic blast toward where Storm hovers, but wind deflects it harmlessly. Kurt tries teleporting close enough to grab her, but she senses his approach and lightning drives him back mid-bam. We can't fight her like this, Jubilee shouts over the wind. She controls the entire battlefield. Raven shifts into Storm's appearance, trying to confuse the weather patterns. Doesn't work. Aurora's connection to her powers is instinctive, not visual. She knows exactly where she is versus the imposter. Another lightning strike, closer this time. Raven barely dodges, blue skin visible again as the illusion drops. Then Psylocke arrives. She doesn't announce herself, just appears behind Kurt in a burst of purple energy, psychic blade already formed and slashing. He teleports away on pure instinct, the blade missing by centimeters. Predictable, Psylocke says, tracking his displacement. Her telepathy reads his intentions before he acts. You'll teleport left in 3 seconds, then behind me in 5, then... Kurt changes tactics mid-teleport, appearing above her instead. Doesn't matter. She sensed it coming, psychic blade slicing upward. He bamps away before it connects, but now he's defensive, reactive, exactly where she wants him. The battlefield splits. Storm dominates the sky, making ranged attacks impossible. Psylocke controls ground combat through precognition and telepathy. The X-Men are outmatched on every front. We need a plan, Scott yells. The plan is survive. Peter blurs between positions, moving too fast for either horsewoman to target. But he can't attack effectively either. Storm's winds are strong enough that even at super speed, he's fighting constant buffeting. Hank's scientific mind races through options. Storm's powers are atmospheric manipulation, meaning she needs air currents to control. If they could create a vacuum or pressurized bubble, no, impossible without equipment. Psylocke's telepathy gives her combat precognition, so they need someone whose thoughts she can't read or predict. Jean! Hank shouts. Telepathic interference! If you can broadcast noise, scramble Psylocke's predictions. I'm a little busy. Jean's still pinning Archangel a block away, her telekinetic hold weakening as fatigue sets in. Warren's metal wings saw at the invisible bonds, cutting them like razors through rope. She can't maintain this much longer. Eric floats motionless, Peter's words still echoing. A son! He has a son! But a daughter too. Nina, who died because he tried to be normal, tried to hide among humans who killed her the moment they learned what she was. Now another child, one who survived, one who's looking at him with desperate hope that maybe Eric Lensher isn't completely lost to Magneto's rage. Why are you here? Eric asks. Trying to stop you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Peter edges closer along the tilted rooftop. I know what happened in Poland. I know you lost your family. I know that pain. You know nothing about pain. Eric's voice hardens. You grew up safe, hidden. I watched my daughter die in my arms because humans feared what we are. So you're going to kill everyone? Destroy the world? That's the answer? It's the only answer. Eric's magnetic field flares, debris beginning to orbit around him. They will never accept us, never see us as equals. The only way mutants survive is if we eliminate the threat humanity poses. By becoming the monsters they think we are? Peter's moving at normal speed now, approaching like you'd approach a wild animal, slow, hands visible, non-threatening. Dad, listen to yourself. You sound exactly like the people who killed your family. Eliminate the threat. That's what they said about mutants. The word dad hits Eric like a physical blow. This boy, this son he never knew existed, just called him dad while trying to talk him down from genocide. Apocalypse promised purpose, Eric says, but there's doubt creeping into his voice. Promised a world where the strong rule, where our children won't have to hide or die for being born different. He promised you revenge dressed up as evolution. Peter's close now, just meters away. But I've seen what you can do. The factory worker in Poland who saved a coworker despite the risk. That's you too. Not just the anger, not just the destruction. Eric wavers. The magnetic field fluctuates wildly as his concentration splinters between grief, rage, and this unexpected connection. Across Cairo, his careful architectural destruction becomes chaotic. Buildings he was reshaping collapse. Metal structures twist randomly. Apocalypse feels the disruption. His fourth horseman is compromised, distracted, failing in his purpose. Unacceptable. Apocalypse exits the pyramid, leaving Xavier imprisoned by transmuted stone. He'll deal with the ritual later. First, he needs to handle these insects personally. He appears in the plaza where Storm and Psylocke fight the X-Men, simply materializing like he was always there. Presence fills the space, making everything else feel small and insignificant. Enough playing with prey, he says. Kill them. Storm intensifies her assault. Lightning strikes increase from 1 per second to 5 per second, carpeting the battlefield in electrical fury. Psylocke's psychic blade extends, reaching farther than should be possible, forcing Kurt to teleport constantly just to avoid being skewered. Hank takes a direct lightning hit. His healing factor saves him from death, but he drops, smoking and twitching. Jubilee tries to cover him with explosive bursts that do nothing except announce her position. Psylocke's blade finds her shoulder, psychic energy burning through nerve endings. The X-Men are losing. Badly. Scott makes a desperate decision, rips off his visor completely and opens his eyes with zero control. The optic blast erupts in full force, uncontrolled and devastating. It's a weapon of mass destruction, cutting through buildings and tearing up pavement. The beam sweeps toward Apocalypse, powerful enough to level mountains. Apocalypse raises one hand. The blast stops mid-air, held back by molecular manipulation. He's literally controlling the energy particles, preventing them from advancing. Impressive power, Apocalypse observes, wasted on foolish loyalty. He redirects the blast upward into the sky, then casually waves his other hand. Scott flies backward and crashes through a wall. The visor tumbles from his grip, landing meters away. He scrambles to close his eyes before the blast resumes, but he's effectively out of the fight. Can't see, can't retrieve the visor without risking uncontrolled destruction. Raven tries to get to him, but Psylocke cuts her off. The psychic blade slashes across Raven's arm, drawing blue blood and forcing her to retreat. One by one, the X-Men fall. Jean feels it through her telepathic connection to her teammates. Hank down, Jubilee injured, Scott blind and helpless, Kurt exhausted from constant teleportation, Raven bleeding, and she's still holding Archangel, who's seconds away from breaking free. The phoenix fire in her chest surges, responding to her desperation. It wants out, wants to burn everything, threatening her friends. She could release it, let that cosmic power consume Archangel, consume the Horsewomen, consume Apocalypse himself. But she's terrified of what happens after. The visions she's had don't end with controlled power. They end with planets burning and her screaming as she loses herself to something infinite. Let go, Archangel snarls, feeling her grip weakening. You can't hold me forever. He's right. Her telekinetic bonds finally snap. Warren launches skyward, then dives at Jean like a missile, metal wings spread to slice her apart. She throws up a desperate shield, but she's exhausted, power depleted from the extended hold. The wings punch through her telekinetic barrier. Bam! Fort appears between Jean and Archangel, taking the hit meant for her. Metal feathers slice across his back, cutting deep. He screams and collapses. Kurt! Jean catches him before he hits the ground, but the damage is severe. Blue blood soaks through his shirt. His breathing is shallow, ragged. Archangel circles for another dive, preparing to finish them both. Jean looks at her friend dying in her arms. Looks at her team being systematically destroyed by Apocalypse and his horsemen. Looks at a world about to fall into darkness because she's too scared to use the power that could save it. The Phoenix fire responds to her choice before she consciously makes it. Golden flames erupt from her body, cosmic energy that exists beyond normal reality. Not destructive yet, just present, wrapping around her like armor. Her eyes shift from green to burning gold. Archangel's dive stops mid-flight. Jean's telekinetic power, amplified by the Phoenix Force, catches him effortlessly and holds him suspended like an insect in amber. "I'm sorry, Warren," she says, voice echoing with harmonics similar to Apocalypse's but warmer, alive with different purpose. "But I won't let you hurt anyone else." The Phoenix fire flares. Warren screams as cosmic flames burn through Apocalypse's enhancements, not destroying him but purging the ancient mutant's influence. The metal wings dissolve, transmuted back to the feathers they once were. The dark armor cracks and falls away. When the flames recede, Warren Worthington III drops unconscious but alive and free. Jean sets him down gently, then rises into the air. The Phoenix Force burns brighter now, a visible aura of gold and crimson flames surrounding her. She's still herself, still Jean Grey, but connected to something infinitely larger. She turns toward the plaza where her friends are losing. Apocalypse senses it immediately, a power that rivals his own, more than rivals, and its raw potential exceeds. The Phoenix Force, cosmic entity of creation and destruction, currently inhabiting a teenage mutant who has no idea what she truly carries. Fascinating, dangerous, something he wants for himself. "Storm, Psylocke, withdraw," he commands. "This one is mine." Jean descends into the plaza, Phoenix flames trailing behind her like wings. She doesn't look at her fallen friends, can't afford to, not when Apocalypse is already moving, already attacking. He strikes with telekinetic force that could pulverize buildings. Jean blocks it with a thought, Phoenix fire absorbing and negating the attack. He tries molecular manipulation, attempting to transmute her bones to dust. The Phoenix burns away the attempt before it touches her. "Impossible," Apocalypse breathes. "What are you? I'm Jean Grey." Her voice echoes with double tones, her own thoughts merged with the Phoenix's vast consciousness. "And you need to stop!" She attacks with telekinetic force amplified by cosmic fire. The blast sends Apocalypse flying backward through the pyramid he built, punching holes through transmuted stone. He crashes into the chamber where Xavier is imprisoned, nearly crushing the professor. Apocalypse rises, actually injured for the first time in millennia. A cut on his forehead bleeds blue-black blood. He touches it, staring at the blood on his fingers with something like wonder. "You can hurt me," he says. "Good. I was beginning to think this age had nothing worthy to face." He gestures, and the entire pyramid responds to his will. Stone flows like liquid, reshaping itself into massive hands that grab for Jean. She burns through them, Phoenix fire reducing transmuted matter to ash. They clash again, trading blows that shake the city's foundation. Buildings collapse from the shockwaves. The sky itself tears open where their powers collide, revealing something like reality breaking underneath. It's the battle of cosmic forces, ancient god versus primal entity, both of them using mortal vessels to wage war on a level beyond human comprehension, and Jean is winning, not through superior skill or experience. Apocalypse has millennia of combat knowledge, but the Phoenix Force simply operates on a higher level. It doesn't manipulate matter or energy, it is matter and energy, creation and destruction personified. Apocalypse realizes he can't win this direct confrontation, so he changes tactics. "Eric!" he calls out telepathically, commanding his fourth horseman. "Bring down the buildings, bury them all." Eric, still hovering above the city with Peter, hears the command. The compulsion that comes with being a horseman activates, trying to override his free will. Magnetic fields surge as his powers engage automatically. "No!" Peter grabs his father's arm. "Don't listen to him! I can't!" Eric struggles against the mental programming. "He's in my head, forcing, Buildings begin to collapse as Eric's powers activate despite his resistance. The structures he'd carefully reshaped now fall on the X-Men below, tons of metal and stone dropping toward injured students who can't escape. Jean senses it, splits her attention between fighting Apocalypse and catching falling debris with telekinesis. But even Phoenix enhanced, she can't be in two places effectively. Apocalypse seizes the opening and strikes, molecular manipulation finally connecting. Jean's left arm begins transmuting to stone, spreading from fingers toward shoulder. She screams. The Phoenix fire erupts in response to her pain, burning so bright it's visible from space. A column of cosmic flame reaching from Cairo to the stratosphere, announcing to the universe that the Phoenix has fully awakened, and somewhere in the stars, ancient beings take notice. But that's a problem for another day. Right now, Jean Grey embraces the fire completely, lets it consume her fear, her hesitation, her terror of her own power. The Phoenix Force responds with joy, finally united with a host willing to accept its full potential. The transmutation reverses. Stone becomes flesh again. Jean rises higher. Phoenix flames forming actual wings now. Massive, beautiful, terrible to behold. Enough, she says, and reality listens. Phoenix fire illuminates Cairo like a second sun. Jean hovers at the epicenter, cosmic flames spreading outward in wings that span 100 meters. The power coursing through her is beyond anything she imagined, not just telekinesis amplified, but reality itself bending to her will. Apocalypse stares up at her, and for the first time in 5,000 years, genuine concern crosses his features. This isn't a mutant he can manipulate or control. This is something primordial, a force of nature wearing a teenage girl's face. You cannot sustain that power, he says, trying to sound confident. The Phoenix will consume you, burn you from the inside out. You're a child playing with cosmic fire. Jean's response is wordless. She extends one hand, and Phoenix flames surge toward Apocalypse in a wave of gold and crimson. He raises shields, molecular barriers, force fields, every defense he knows, but the fire burns through them like they're paper. The blast catches him full on. Apocalypse screams as cosmic energy sears flesh that hasn't felt pain in millennia. His ancient armor cracks. The enhancements he's accumulated over countless lifetimes begin burning away, stripped by flames that exist beyond physical reality. He teleports away, reappearing 100 meters distant, smoking and wounded. Storm! Psylocke! Attack her together! The two horsewomen hesitate. They've watched Jean transform from struggling student to cosmic entity in seconds. Backing that seems less like following orders and more like suicide. But the compulsion, Apocalypse placed in their minds activates. Their bodies move despite doubt, powers engaging automatically. Storm calls down lightning, not individual bolts, but a continuous stream, megawatts of electrical fury channeled directly at Jean. Psylocke adds her psychic blade, extending it to impossible lengths, stabbing toward Jean's consciousness while her body is distracted by physical assault. The Phoenix simply exists through both attacks. Lightning passes around Jean harmlessly, redirected by telekinetic fields operating on instinct. The psychic blade touches her mind and recoils. There's nothing to stab because Jean's consciousness is currently merged with an infinite cosmic entity. It's like trying to stab the ocean. I don't want to hurt you, Jean says, voice echoing with double harmonics. Please stop. They can't stop. The compulsion won't let them. Jean makes a choice. Phoenix fire lances out, not to destroy but to purge. Cosmic flames wash over Storm and Psylocke, burning through Apocalypse's mental programming the same way it burned through Warren's enhancements. Both women scream, then collapse. When they rise moments later, the white glow is gone from Storm's eyes. Psylocke's dark armor has cracked and fallen away. They're still powerful mutants, but they're themselves again free from Apocalypse's control. Aurora looks around at the devastation she helped create, horror dawning on her face. What did I do? Oh gods, what did I— Later! Psylocke's already tactical, assessing the battlefield. He's going to kill us for failing him. We need to choose sides quickly. Storm's answer is immediate. She turns toward where Apocalypse stands, raises her hands, and calls down a lightning bolt directly at her former master. He blocks it, but the message is clear. The horsewomen have turned. Eric feels the moment Apocalypse's attention diverts from him. The mental compulsion trying to force him to collapse buildings suddenly weakens. Not gone, but reduced enough that his own will can fight back. Fight it, Peter urges, still gripping his father's arm. I know you're strong enough. Magnetic fields fluctuate wildly as Eric wrestles for control of his own mind. Buildings sway but don't fall. Metal debris orbits chaotically but doesn't become weaponized. He's holding on by sheer force of stubborn will. I can't. The programming is too deep. Yes, you can. Peter shakes him. You survived concentration camps. You survived losing everything. You think some ancient asshole's mind control is stronger than you? Eric's eyes focus on his son. This boy he never knew existed, who came here not for revenge or glory but just to reach him, to save him from himself. The compulsion shatters. Magnetic fields stabilize instantly. Eric gasps like a drowning man reaching air, his mind finally his own again. The clarity is shocking after hours of Apocalypse's influence. He can see how he was manipulated, how his grief was weaponized, how his rage was channeled towards someone else's apocalyptic vision. I'm sorry, he whispers. Nina, Magda, I'm so sorry. You can apologize later. Peter pulls him toward the ground. Right now, your other kids need help. They descend together toward the plaza where the X-Men are battered but still standing. Hank's recovering from the lightning strike, fur singed but healing. Jubilee clutches her injured shoulder. Scott finally retrieved his visor. The one lens is cracked. Raven's bleeding from multiple cuts. Bert lies motionless where Jean left him, blue skin pale from blood loss. Eric lands beside them, and immediately Scott's optic blast swings toward him. Give me one reason not to fry you, because I'm done being Apocalypse's weapon. Eric raises his hands peacefully. And because you need every ally you can get. He's with us, Peter confirms. I know, I'm surprised too. Raven studies Eric with yellow eyes. Charles always believed you could be saved. Guess the old fool was right. Where is Charles? Eric asks. Trapped in the pyramid. Apocalypse was using him for some kind of ritual before Jean interrupted. Hank adjusts his broken glasses. We need to extract him before Apocalypse tries again. Eric nods. Then let's... The pyramid explodes, not a collapse, an eruption. Apocalypse tears his own creation apart from the inside, transmuted stone reverting to sand and original materials. The structure comes down in a controlled demolition, and when the dust clears, Apocalypse stands in the center holding Xavier by the throat. Enough games, the ancient mutant announces. You have cost me my horsemen, disrupted my ritual, forced me to expend power defending against your cosmic pet. He gestures at Jean, still hovering with phoenix flames. But I am En Sabah Nur. I am inevitable, and if I cannot transfer into this body, he begins crushing Xavier's throat, then nobody gets to use it. Charles can't breathe. Apocalypse's grip is molecular manipulation combined with physical force, collapsing his windpipe while simultaneously preventing his healing. Darkness creeps into his vision. His telepathy reaches out desperately, trying to find help, trying to... Jean... Their minds connect across the distance. Professor and student, teacher and protege, linked by psychic bond forged through years of training. I can't stop him alone, Xavier sends. You need to hit him with everything. Full Phoenix force. Don't hold back. But Professor, if I lose control, you won't. I have faith in you. I've always had faith in you. Jean feels tears streaming down her face, evaporating instantly in the Phoenix fire. Charles is giving her permission to unleash power that could kill him along with Apocalypse, trusting her completely despite knowing what she might become. She makes the decision. Phoenix flames intensify, burning so bright that everyone on the battlefield has to shield their eyes. The cosmic entity merges fully with Jean's consciousness, not possession, but partnership. Two beings becoming one for a singular purpose. Destroy the threat to everything Jean loves. The Phoenix screams, a sound that exists across all frequencies simultaneously. Reality cracks where the cry passes, showing the cosmic infrastructure underneath. Apocalypse feels it coming and makes his own choice. Throws Xavier aside like garbage and faces Jean directly. If he's going to die, it'll be facing his killer, not fleeing. Come then, Phoenix, he roars. Show me if you're worthy. Jean, no, Phoenix descends like a meteor. Cosmic fire trails behind, burning the air itself. Apocalypse meets the charge with every power he possesses, 5,000 years of accumulated abilities unleashed in one devastating assault. They collide. The shockwave levels what's left of Cairo's transformed district. Buildings 3 blocks away crack their foundations. The ground splits open in geometric patterns. Eric has to throw out magnetic shields to protect the X-Men from debris moving at ballistic speeds. At the center, Jean and Apocalypse trade blows that reshape local reality. He transmutes the ground beneath her feet to quicksand. She burns it to glass. He throws telekinetic force that could shatter mountains. She deflects it into the sky. He tries molecular manipulation on her body. Phoenix fire purges the attempt before it takes hold. But Apocalypse isn't just powerful. He's experienced, calculated. He feints with telekinesis, making Jean commit her defenses, then strikes with something unexpected psychic attack. His consciousness slams into Jean's mind like a battering ram, not trying to control her, but to fracture the partnership between girl and cosmic force. Drive a wedge between them by amplifying Jean's fears. You'll lose yourself, become nothing but the Phoenix's vessel. Everyone you love will burn. Jean falters. The cosmic flames flicker as doubt creeps in. Look what you've already done, the destruction around you. How long before you destroy your friends too? She's hurting. Apocalypse's psychic attack tears at memories, shows her nightmare visions of Scott dying in Phoenix fire, of Kurt burning, of everyone she cares about reduced to ash by power she can't control. The Phoenix force begins pulling away, sensing Jean's rejection. No, a familiar voice says in her mind. Don't listen to him, Jean. Professor Xavier, battered and barely conscious, reaches out telepathically. His psychic presence joins with Jean's, reinforcing her mental defenses. You are not defined by your power. You define your power. The Phoenix chose you because you're strong enough to wield it without being consumed. Other minds join the connection. Scott adding his thoughts, his unwavering faith in her, Kurt's gentle encouragement despite his injuries, Hank's analytical certainty that she can do this, Raven's fierce pride, Peter's irreverent confidence, even Eric, tentatively, offering the strength that comes from choosing redemption over destruction. The X-Men, united in telepathic support, anchoring Jean to herself. The Phoenix Force surges back, but this time, it's different. Not overwhelming Jean, but merging with her completely. Partnership instead of possession. The cosmic entity recognizes something it's rarely found, a host strong enough to channel its power without losing herself. Jean's eyes open, burning pure gold. I am Jean Grey, she says, voice resonating with absolute certainty. I am Phoenix! And you're finished. She doesn't attack with fire or telekinetic force. Instead, she does something Apocalypse can't defend against. She burns away his immortality. The Phoenix Force operates on cosmic scales, manipulating fundamental forces of existence. Jean focuses that power on a single purpose, severing Apocalypse's connection to his consciousness transfer ability, the mechanism that's kept him alive for 5,000 years, jumping from body to body, accumulating powers across millennia. She burns it away. Apocalypse feels it happening and screams. Not pain, though there's that too. Terror. For the first time since ancient Egypt, he's mortal. Stuck in one body. Able to die. Impossible. I am eternal. I am. Alone, Jean finishes. Your horsemen abandoned you. Your ritual failed. Your empire is dust. There's nothing left. She raises both hands. Phoenix flames gather between her palms, compressed into a sphere of cosmic fire, every atom vibrating at frequencies that can unmake matter at the molecular level. Apocalypse tries to teleport. Can't. Jean sealed local space, tries molecular manipulation. Phoenix fire burns through it, tries everything in his vast arsenal of stolen powers. Nothing works. Any last words? Jean asks, giving him the dignity of acknowledgement. Apocalypse straightens despite his injuries, meets her burning gaze directly. I am the first. I will not be the last. Others will rise. Others will. Jean releases the Phoenix fire. The cosmic flames engulf Apocalypse completely. Not burning his body, consuming his existence. Every cell, every molecule, every quantum particle that makes up Ansaban Nur dissolves into component atoms and then into pure energy. The ancient mutant doesn't even have time to scream. One moment he's there, defiant to the end. The next, he's simply gone, erased from reality as thoroughly as if he never existed. The Phoenix fire dissipates. Silence falls across Cairo. The battle is over. Jean descends slowly, cosmic flames fading. By the time her feet touch ground, she's just Jean Grey again, exhausted, overwhelmed, but herself. The Phoenix Force recedes to wherever it lives inside her, content to wait until needed again. She takes 3 steps and collapses. Scott catches her before she hits the ground. I've got you! You're okay! You did it! Around them, the X-Men gather. Storm and Psylocke approach cautiously, no longer enemies but not quite allies yet. Eric hovers nearby, uncertain of his place. Raven tends to Kurt's injuries while Hank does a medical scan with equipment that somehow survived the battle. Xavier wheels himself over. Someone found his chair in the rubble. He's battered, throat bruised purple, but alive. Is he really gone? Jubilee asks, staring at the spot where Apocalypse stood moments ago. Like, permanently gone? The Phoenix doesn't do half measures, Xavier confirms. And Sabanner is destroyed, completely and irrevocably. The weight of that settles over everyone. They won. Against impossible odds, against a godlike enemy, a group of students and their teachers actually won. What happens now? Peter asks. Good question. Cairo is destroyed. Governments worldwide are in chaos. The mansion is rubble, and they're an exhausted group of mutants standing in the wreckage of a battle that'll be talked about for generations. Xavier looks at each of them in turn. His students, his X-Men, the next generation who just saved the world. Now, he says, we rebuild. The sun sets over Cairo, painting ruins in shades of orange and gold. Fitting, maybe. Beauty emerging from devastation. The city looks like a war zone because it was won. Buildings reduced to rubble, streets torn apart, scorch marks where cosmic fire touched reality. But the people are returning, tentative at first. Egyptian military established a perimeter during the battle, evacuated civilians, prepared for the worst. Now that the worst has passed, survivors trickle back to find their homes, their businesses, their lives transformed or destroyed. The X-Men help where they can. Hank uses his strength to clear rubble blocking a hospital entrance. Storm, no longer under Apocalypse's influence, brings rain to extinguish fires still burning in the commercial district. Peter speeds through collapsed areas, searching for anyone trapped, pulling survivors from wreckage faster than rescue teams can organize. Kurt teleports medical supplies from intact warehouses to field hospitals. Each BAMF brings antibiotics, bandages, equipment. He doesn't stop even though his back injuries from Archangel's attack haven't fully healed. Someone needs help. That's enough. Jean sits apart from the others, too exhausted to stand. The Phoenix Force burned through her reserves completely. She'll recover, but right now, even lifting a pebble telekinetically feels impossible. Scott stays beside her, silent support, occasionally offering water or just his presence. I killed him, Jean says quietly. Erased him from existence. I felt it happen, every molecule of his body just gone. He would have killed all of us, Scott reminds her. Probably billions more. You saved the world, Jean. Doesn't make it feel better. She stares at her hands, half expecting to see Phoenix fire still burning there. What if I can't control it next time? What if the power takes over and I become the threat? Scott takes her hand. Then we'll face it together. That's what teams do. She wants to believe him, wants to think friendship and training will be enough to control cosmic force. But the Phoenix is still inside her, sleeping but present. A constant reminder that she's connected to something infinitely larger than herself. Xavier wheels over, moving carefully across uneven ground. His throat still shows bruises from Apocalypse's grip, but he's smiling. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck made of stars, Jean says. You? Similar, but with more existential dread about nearly having my consciousness replaced. He's joking, but there's truth underneath. The experience left scars that won't heal quickly. Jean, what you did today, taking full control of the Phoenix, using it without being consumed, that was remarkable. I had help. She glances at Scott, then back to Xavier. Your voice in my head, everyone supporting me, I couldn't have done it alone. No one should have to. Xavier looks across the plaza where his students work to help Cairo recover. That's the lesson here. Eclipse believed power alone determined worth. He was wrong. Our strength comes from each other, philosophical as always. But after today, Jean thinks maybe he has a point. Eric stands on what used to be the pyramid's foundation, now just scattered stones and sand. Everything Apocalypse built, reduced to nothing. Fitting end for a god with delusions of permanence. Peter approaches at normal speed, learning that just because you can move fast doesn't mean you should. Hey, you doing okay? Honestly? No. Eric doesn't look at him. I helped destroy Cairo, killed people under his influence, abandoned everything I claimed to believe in because an ancient mutant promised revenge. Yeah, you really screwed up. Eric blinks, surprised by the bluntness. But, Peter continues, you also broke free, helped us fight back. That counts for something. Does it? Eric finally meets his son's eyes. I've spent decades claiming mutants are superior, that we should rule humans. Then I became exactly what I accused humans of being, a tyrant willing to commit genocide. So maybe it's time to try something different. Peter sits on a chunk of rubble. Charles has been saying for years there's another way. Coexistence instead of domination. Maybe, I don't know, give it a shot? Eric almost smiles. You sound like him. Gross. Take that back. This time Eric does smile, faint but genuine. His son, this teenager who has every right to hate him, is offering forgiveness, a chance to be better. I don't know if I can do what Charles does, Eric admits. Hope for the best in people. Believe in peaceful coexistence. I've seen too much darkness. Then start small. Help us rebuild the mansion. Stick around for a while. See what happens. Peter stands, offers his hand. No big commitments. Just try. Eric looks at the offered hand for a long moment, then takes it. 3 days later, they return to Westchester. The trip involves multiple plane transfers, fake IDs courtesy of Raven's shapeshifting, and a lot of uncomfortable questions from customs agents about why a group of teenagers are returning from Egypt looking like they survived an explosion, which they did, technically. The mansion is worse than they remembered. The initial attack destroyed most of the main building. What Stryker's forces didn't demolish, time and weather have made worse. Walls sag. The roof has collapsed in multiple places. Xavier's office, where he spent decades planning for a better future, is just empty space and charred wood. Students gather on the lawn, staring at ruins of their home. We could find somewhere else, Hank suggests. Start fresh in a new location, maybe somewhere less visible. No, Xavier's voice carries surprising firmness. This place represents everything we've worked for. We don't abandon it because rebuilding will be hard. We rebuild because it's worth saving. Poetic, Raven says. Also impractical. Reconstruction will take months, assuming we can even afford it. I can help with that. Everyone turns. Warren Worthington III stands at the edge of the group, looking uncomfortable but determined. His wings are back to normal feathers, white and undamaged. No trace of Archangel's metal remains. My family has money, Warren continues. More money than sense, honestly. And I owe you all for saving me from what I became. He straightens. Let me fund the reconstruction. It's the least I can do. Hank adjusts his glasses, calculating mentally. That's extremely generous, but the cost would be… I don't care about the cost. Warren's voice hardens. I hurt people under Apocalypse's control. This is how I make amends. Xavier nods slowly. We accept. Thank you, Warren. There's still the physical labor, Jubilee points out. Even with funding, actually rebuilding will take forever. Eric steps forward. Not necessarily. He raises his hands. Across the property, metal responds. Twisted girders straighten. Bent nails pull themselves free and line up in organized rows. Rebar from the rubble flies together, forming the skeleton of what will become new walls. Jean joins him, eyes glowing faintly as telekinesis engages. She lifts stones, positions them precisely, holds everything stable while Eric welds metal framework. Together they work in surprising harmony. Magnetism and telekinesis, destruction and creation, rebuilding what was lost. The other students watch in awe as the mansion begins taking shape. Not the same building exactly. Something new, stronger foundations, better layout, a home rebuilt by the people who'll live in it. Storm adds her contribution, bringing rain to settle dust, wind to clear debris. Kurt teleports materials from collapsed sections to where they're needed. Peter works at super speed, handling detail work faster than any construction crew. By sunset, the basic structure stands complete. Walls and roof, windows and doors. The interior needs work, but it's shelter. It's home. Xavier surveys the day's progress, genuinely moved. Thank you, all of you. Don't get sappy on us, Professor, Raven says, but she's smiling. That evening, Eric prepares to leave. His duffel bag holds everything he owns, which isn't much. A life spent running doesn't accumulate possessions. Xavier finds him at the front gate. You could stay. Help train the next generation. You have so much to offer, Eric. I'm not teacher material, Charles. Eric shoulders the bag. What I did in Cairo, in Poland, I need to find my own path. Figure out who I am when I'm not defining myself by anger. Where will you go? Somewhere quiet, remote, maybe back to Europe. Eric pauses. But not as Magneto. That name, that identity, I'm done with it. I'm proud of you. Xavier extends his hand. For what it's worth. Eric takes it, shakes firmly. Take care of my son. And Jean. Both of them have power they're still learning to handle. I will. And Eric, my door is always open. When you're ready. I know, old friend. They part as they've parted a dozen times before, allies despite different paths, friends despite different philosophies. Maybe this time the separation will last. Maybe Eric will find peace somewhere in the wilderness. Or maybe he'll be back within a year, pulled into another crisis, fighting alongside the X-Men despite his best intentions. Time will tell. Peter watches his father leave from an upstairs window. He never told Eric the truth, never said the words, "I'm your son," directly. The moment in Cairo could have been confused as metaphor, and Eric didn't push. Part of Peter wants to chase after him, make it explicit, demand some kind of relationship. But another part thinks maybe it's better this way. Let Eric find himself first. Build something worth having before complicating it with family dynamics. You'll tell him eventually, Kurt says from the doorway. Yeah, eventually. Peter turns away from the window. Right now he needs space. I can give him that. That's very mature. Don't sound so surprised. They head downstairs where Hank's setting up a temporary classroom. Life continues. Students need education, training, purpose. The world didn't stop just because they saved it. A week passes. Then another. The mansion takes shape around them, not just physically, but as a community. New students arrive, word spreading that Xavier School is operational again. Some come from families who accept their mutations. Others flee homes where being different means being dangerous. All of them find sanctuary. Xavier establishes new protocols, better security, emergency evacuation plans, training regimens that prepare students for real combat while hoping they'll never need those skills. Moira McTaggart visits one afternoon, CIA credentials getting her past the new security gates. She remembers everything now. Xavier restored her memories of their time together during the first-class era. Their relationship, his decision to erase her knowledge for her safety, everything. She's angry about it. Also understanding. Also still in love with him despite a decade of forced forgetting. They talk for hours, work through complicated feelings. By the time she leaves, there's an understanding. Not everything fixed, but a foundation to build on. Charles watches her drive away, hopeful in a way he hasn't been since Cuba. The training ground occupies what used to be the mansion's tennis courts. Hank designed it with help from the students, an obstacle course that adapts to different power sets, teleportation challenges for Kurt, precision targets for Scott's optic blasts, weather control exercises for Aurora. Yes, Storm decided to stay. Psylocke left, gone back to her mercenary life, but with new perspective. Warren stayed, working through guilt by helping younger students. Alex Summers survived the Weapon X assault and now helps coordinate training, and leading them through morning exercises Mystique. Raven accepted the role reluctantly. She's not comfortable with authority, prefers working alone, but someone needs to teach these kids actual combat skills, and she's the most qualified. Again, she barks at Scott, who's trying to hit moving targets while blindfolded. You're relying too much on sight. Trust your other senses. Scott fires, misses by inches, swears quietly. Better. Again. Jean practices nearby, lifting progressively heavier objects. The Phoenix Force sleeps inside her, but her natural telekinesis is still formidable. She's learning control, not suppression, but precision, understanding her limits instead of fearing them. Kurt teleports through a maze designed to challenge his spatial awareness. Peter runs obstacle courses at various speeds, learning that sometimes slow and precise beats fast and sloppy. They're not just students anymore, they're X-Men. The name was Raven's suggestion. Xavier's School for the Gifted, training extraordinary people. X-Men, protectors of a world that fears them. Charles approved it immediately. Weeks turn to months. Summer arrives, bringing warmth and growth. The mansion's gardens recover, green life pushing through scorched earth. Metaphor for everything, really. One evening, the core team gathers in what will eventually be Xavier's new office, but is currently just a room with folding chairs. Charles, Hank, Raven, Scott, Jean, Kurt, Peter, Aurora, Jubilee, Warren, the people who fought in Cairo and survived. I wanted to thank you, Xavier begins, for everything you've done, for believing in this dream when it would have been easier to walk away. Cheesy, Peter mutters, but accurate, Hank adds. Xavier continues. The world knows about us now. Footage from Cairo spread globally. Governments are asking questions. Some people call us heroes, others call us threats. So business as usual, Raven observes. Essentially. But we have an opportunity here. Show the world what mutants can be. Not Apocalypse's vision of domination, but something better. Protectors, heroes who use their gifts to help. You want us to be a superhero team, Jubilee says. That's what this is. I want you to be yourselves, Xavier corrects, whatever that means. If you choose to fight, I'll support you. If you choose to teach, perfect. If you want to leave and live quietly, I understand completely. Silence as everyone processes the choice being offered. Scott speaks first. I'm in. Someone needs to make sure Jean doesn't accidentally set the world on fire. Hey, Jean protests, but she's smiling. I'm in too, obviously. One by one they commit. Kurt, Aurora, Peter, Warren, Jubilee. Even Raven, who insists she's only staying temporarily, but everyone knows better. Then it's settled, Xavier says. Welcome to the X-Men, officially. They talk late into the night, planning, joking, sharing stories from Cairo and the battles before, building the kind of bonds that turn classmates into family. Outside, stars wheel across the sky. The world keeps spinning, unaware or uncaring that it was nearly destroyed by an ancient god. But in Westchester, in a rebuilt mansion full of extraordinary people, hope grows like spring after winter. The future is uncertain. There will be other threats, other apocalypses, other enemies who think mutants are weapons or monsters or mistakes of evolution, but the X-Men will be ready. Together. Epilogue, Alkali Lake, Canada. Weapon X facility abandoned after the Cairo incident. Governments are investigating what happened here, but they're slow. Bureaucracy moves at glacial pace. Private industry moves faster. Men in suits arrive before the official teams. They wear no badges, carry no identification, just briefcases and equipment designed to copy data before anyone knows they were here. The lead figure moves through the facility with purpose, heading directly to the vault labeled Classified Weapon X. He knows exactly what he's looking for. Inside, files on every mutant who passed through this place, genetic samples, experimental data, and most valuable, complete documentation of the adamantium bonding process used on Subject X. He collects everything methodically. Blood samples go into temperature-controlled cases. Files copy to encrypted drives. Video footage of Logan's rampage gets special attention. Such raw power, such potential. On his way out, he pauses at a wall-mounted screen, presses a button. The Essex Corporation logo appears, stylized DNA helix surrounding a diamond. Data acquired, he reports to someone on the other end. The Logan specimen shows promise. Genetic anomalies consistent with our projections. A voice responds, distorted through encryption. Excellent. Return to base. The Mutant Genome Project enters Phase 2. The screen goes dark. The man leaves the facility exactly as he found it. No trace of his presence except missing data that officials won't notice for weeks. By then, Essex Corporation will have everything they need. Somewhere in a laboratory that doesn't officially exist, a scientist examines the stolen blood samples. Mutant DNA, ripe for analysis and potential replication. Nathaniel Essex smiles. The X-Men save the world from apocalypse. They have no idea what's coming next. But that's a story for another day. So that's X-Men, Apocalypse, a movie about ancient gods, cosmic forces, and a group of teenagers who saved the world while figuring out how to use their powers without blowing up the school. But here's the thing, this film is about way more than superpowered fight scenes and CGI destruction. Strip away the spectacle, and you've got a story about identity, belonging, and what it means to be different in a world that constantly tells you you're wrong for existing. Let's unpack that. The weight of legacy apocalypse represents something every generation faces. The past trying to dictate the future. He's literally ancient history refusing to let the world move forward. 5,000 years of might makes right philosophy, wrapped in godlike power and absolute certainty that his way is the only way. Sound familiar? The movie's not subtle about this. Apocalypse wakes up, sees how the world changed without him, and immediately decides everything's wrong. The strong should rule, the weak should die. No room for nuance or growth or the messy reality that maybe evolution isn't about domination. Charles Xavier represents the counter-argument. His whole philosophy centers on coexistence, mutants and humans living together, learning from each other, building something better than either group could alone. It's idealistic, some would say naive. But after watching Apocalypse's alternative, idealism starts looking pretty good. Eric's caught between these philosophies. He's seen humans at their worst concentration camps, his family murdered, constant persecution. Apocalypse's message resonates because it offers something Eric desperately wants, a world where mutants can't be hurt anymore because they're too powerful to touch. Except that world requires genocide, requires becoming the very monsters that humans fear. And when Peter, his son he never knew existed, reaches him at the crucial moment, Eric realizes power without purpose is just destruction. That's the heart of the movie, not the explosions or the cosmic battles, the choice between domination and cooperation, between isolating yourself through strength or connecting through vulnerability. Young heroes. Growing up. What makes this film work when it works is watching the next generation step up. Scott Summers starts the movie terrified of his own eyes, can't look at anything without destroying it. By the end, he's leading rescue operations and fighting gods. That's not because he got more powerful. It's because he learned to trust himself and the people around him. Jean Grey's arc is even more dramatic. The entire movie she's scared of the Phoenix Force inside her, convinced it'll consume her and everyone she loves. And you know what? She's probably right to be scared. That power is cosmic-level dangerous. But when the moment comes, when her friends need her, she doesn't run from it. She accepts it, partners with it, and uses it to save the world. There's something beautiful about that. About facing your deepest fear because people you love are in danger. It's the opposite of Apocalypse's philosophy. He sees fear as weakness to be purged. Jean proves that acknowledging fear and choosing to act anyway is the real strength. It goes from being forced to fight in cages, to teleporting medical supplies to Cairo survivors. Aurora transforms from desperate street thief to hero who brings rain to put out fires instead of storms to destroy. Even Warren, corrupted into Archangel and used as a weapon, gets freed and chooses to help rebuild. These aren't experienced heroes. They're kids thrown into situations way beyond their skill level, and they rise to meet it. That's inspiring in a way that perfect heroes never are. The father-son thread Peter and Eric's relationship deserves its own discussion, because it's one of the movie's strongest emotional anchors. Peter spent the entire film knowing Magneto is his father, but too scared to say it out loud. And you understand why, right? What if Eric rejects him? What if the great Magneto doesn't want a son, especially one who can't help remind him of everything he lost? But when the moment comes, when Eric's about to help destroy the world, Peter takes the risk, screams the truth at his father while standing on a collapsing building in the middle of a battle. It's not the right time or the right place, but it's the only moment he's got. And it works, not because Eric immediately becomes Father of the Year, because hearing he has a son, a child who survived and grew up and came all this way just to reach him, breaks through the rage and grief that Apocalypse weaponized. Their relationship doesn't get resolved. Eric leaves at the end, still figuring out who he is when he's not defined by anger. Peter doesn't push for more. But there's potential there, a foundation for something that might grow into actual family. That's realistic in a way superhero movies often aren't. Not everything gets tied up neatly. Sometimes people need space and time. Sometimes the best you can do is plant seeds and hope they grow. What worked and what didn't. Let's be honest, this movie's got problems. The pacing's uneven. The first act takes its time establishing characters and threats, which is great, but then the second act rushes through Eric's tragedy and recruitment as a horseman. That needed more room to breathe. The emotional devastation of losing his family again deserves better than 10 minutes before moving on to the next action beat. Apocalypse himself is, look, Oscar Isaac is giving it everything he's got under all that makeup and prosthetics. But the character feels weirdly generic for an ancient god. His motivation is just destroy the weak, which isn't exactly nuanced. Compare him to Magneto in earlier films. Eric's pain and anger make sense. You understand where he's coming from even when you disagree. Apocalypse is just evil because the plot needs a villain. Also, some of the Horsemen are underdeveloped. Storm gets a decent arc from street kid to believer to redeemed hero. But Psylocke? She shows up, looks cool, fights for Apocalypse, then kind of disappears. Angel gets more development, but it's mostly visual broken wings to metal wings to dead. No real personality beyond angry fighter. The CGI is hit or miss. Some sequences look amazing. Quicksilver's mansion evacuation is an all-timer, possibly better than his Pentagon scene from Days of Future Past. Jean's Phoenix transformation is visually stunning, but other moments, particularly the Cairo destruction, feel a bit weightless. Too much green screen, not enough practical effects to ground the chaos. That said, when this movie works, it really works. The character moments land hard. Jean struggling with her power. Charles being violated by Apocalypse's psychic hijacking. Eric's grief transforming into world-ending rage. Scott learning to see himself as more than his destructive potential. The Weapon X facility sequence is brutal and thrilling. Watching Wolverine tear through soldiers while the young X-Men try to escape captures that perfect mix of horror and excitement. And the final battle, despite some CGI issues, delivers emotional payoff. Jean embracing the Phoenix, Eric breaking free from control, the team working together despite being completely outmatched. That's good superhero storytelling. The bigger picture X-Men, Apocalypse released in 2016, sandwiched between Batman v Superman and Captain America: Civil War. Superhero fatigue was becoming a real conversation. Critics were starting to question if we really needed this many movies about people in costumes punching each other. This film got caught in that backlash. Reviews were mixed. Some people loved it. Others thought it was too busy, too messy, too focused on spectacle over substance. But here's what I think gets overlooked. This movie is genuinely trying to say something about prejudice, power, and choosing hope over hatred. The X-Men have always been about outsiders finding family, about people told they're wrong or dangerous or mistakes, proving that difference can be strength. Apocalypse takes that theme and puts it against the ultimate test. What happens when someone offers you power without persecution, when the choice is between hiding forever or standing tall as conquerors? That's not a simple question, and the movie doesn't pretend it is. Eric takes the offer because he's been hurt too many times. Aurora takes it because she's been invisible and powerless her whole life. Warren takes it because he's been rejected and broken. These aren't bad people. They're desperate people offered exactly what they think they need. And they're saved not by lectures or force, but by connection. Peter reaching Eric, Xavier believing in Jean, the team supporting each other. That's the thesis. We're stronger together than apart, even when apart offers more immediate power. In 2016, with political divisions growing sharper and identity politics becoming flashpoints, that message resonated differently than it might have in earlier years. The movie was asking audiences to consider whether strength through unity beats strength through domination. Some people heard that message, others just wanted more Wolverine. The ending's promise. The film closes on optimism. The mansion rebuilt. Students training. Xavier's dream alive and growing despite everything that tried to destroy it. It's earned optimism too. These characters fought impossible odds, lost friends, confronted their deepest fears, and came out the other side changed but intact. They proved that the next generation can handle what the previous generation leaves them. There's also that post-credits scene. Essex Corporation collecting Weapon X data, specifically focused on Logan's genetic material. For fans of the comics, that's a massive tease. Mr. Sinister, one of the X-Men's most dangerous enemies, positioning himself for future appearances. That tease never paid off, unfortunately. The next film in this timeline, Dark Phoenix, went a completely different direction. But in 2016, walking out of theaters, that hint of what's coming generated real excitement. Personal take. Here's where I land on X-Men, Apocalypse. It's flawed but worthwhile. The movie tries to do too much, too many characters, too many subplots, too much destruction. Streamlining would have helped. Focus more on Jean's Phoenix arc and Eric's grief. Give Apocalypse actual personality beyond generic villainy. Trim some of the Cairo battle to develop character moments. But I appreciate the ambition. Director Bryan Singer was trying to make an epic, a story spanning thousands of years with stakes that actually feel world-ending. Not every swing connects, but he's swinging for the fences. And the cast? They're uniformly excellent. James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender continue to make Charles and Eric's complicated relationship the emotional center of these films. Sophie Turner's Jean Grey radiates vulnerability and power in equal measure. Evan Peters steals every scene he's in as Quicksilver. The younger cast members, Ty Sheridan, Alexandra Shipp, Cody Smith-McPhee, bring energy and authenticity to characters who could have been generic teenagers. You believe they're scared but stepping up anyway. What I love most is that the movie takes its themes seriously. This isn't just surface-level mutants or metaphors for minorities. It's examining what happens when the oppressed are offered the chance to become oppressors, when victims can become conquerors. The easy answer is, power corrupts. The movie suggests it's more complicated. Power amplifies who you already are, and choosing to remain compassionate despite having power is the real victory. That's worth exploring, even if the execution isn't perfect. Why it matters. X-Men, Apocalypse won't make anyone's top 5 superhero movies list. It's not The Dark Knight or Logan or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but it's a solid entry in a franchise that's been asking important questions about difference and acceptance since 2000. These movies paved the way for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, proved that audiences would show up for superhero stories if they're done with care and respect for the source material. The X-Men franchise had its stumbles, but it also had moments of genuine brilliance. This film contributes to that legacy. It shows the next generation taking the torch. It explores the consequences of trauma and the possibility of redemption. It asks whether hope is naive or necessary, and it features a teenage girl partnering with a cosmic entity to atomize a god, which is just objectively cool. So yeah, X-Men Apocalypse. Ancient mutant tries to destroy the world, gets stopped by teenagers who are still figuring out how to control their powers. It's messy and ambitious and flawed and hopeful, kind of like the X-Men themselves. If you enjoyed this deep dive into mutant philosophy disguised as a blockbuster, hit that like button and subscribe for more movie breakdowns where we actually talk about what these stories mean instead of just recapping plot. Drop a comment telling me which X-Men character you'd want to see get their own solo film. Personally, I'm still waiting for the Nightcrawler movie we deserve. Thanks for sticking with me through all 24,000 words of this. That's basically a novella about a superhero movie. You're either incredibly dedicated or you've got this playing in the background while doing something else. Either way, I appreciate you. Until next time, remember, we're all mutants in our own way. The question is, what we do with our differences. Stay extraordinary.